We're videoing the whole interaction. First, thank you for making it. Welcome. It's going to be 2 busy half days. So we start at 4, we will finish at 7:30. We're going to cramp in it a lot of information that you have. So please come in. There are seats in front. So we should be about 60 people coming from different sectors, different type of companies. And at the center of it is going to be on governance. What I would like to do is tell you how we are approaching it, because you have a number of workshops on governance. IFC is giving, you have others, ESA are giving a few. The difference in this one, you will feel it right away, relies on 5 pillars. The first pillar is we will show you templates. So these are templates that are currently being used across different boards, from startups to scale-ups to established organizations. The second step is we will show you 2 case studies. And these are case studies of companies that we have worked with. We have to do a case study in Contact Group, so yeah. But we will have case studies of companies that we have worked with so that you see how these templates are being implemented. The third dimension is the dimension where we will have a testimonial. So I'm asking CEOs of different organizations to come up and share their experience in terms of good practices, difficult practices that they had in terms of building a governance structure in the country. This is an important one, so you could have the chance to be able to ask them questions, discuss with them. We're having a session at 6 o'clock today. We have another section at 6 o'clock tomorrow with different CEOs from different groups, different startups. No, they're not startups, these are scale-ups or existing large diversified groups that you have. Now there is a 5th dimension. The 5th dimension is the reason we do this is in order to plant the seeds. And you will realize very quickly that alone it's difficult for you to get the job done. So this, we are here, Lama is here, we're here. We're working with a number of other entities where we're providing those advisory services to hold your hands and to take you through the process of setting up a healthy governance structure in your own organization. This is a very important step. Now there is a 6th step. It's actually all of you. Every one of you has a story to tell. Every single one of you have a story to tell. And the thing is that you don't know each other. So it's an opportunity for you to network each other. Yesterday with Lama, we were with another group, and we realized how much of the common challenges these different companies were facing and how they could help each other. So in some ways, you don't need us. You have yourself and you have people around this, and the amount of knowledge that you have in this room is amazing. It's a question of how best to go about tapping it. So this will be part of the exercise that we'll do in having these sessions on a quarterly basis. We had one on entrepreneurship about a year ago. We had another one on financial sustainability. We're having this one on governance, and we're going to continue to have those sessions that we're going to do across the term. So we're happy to have all of you here. Before starting, I want to introduce Hassan. Tu peux t'asseoir. On va trouver une charmante jeune fille. Hassan is an old school friend of mine, so we know each other for 60 years. So, and a little bit more. So we have, and Hassan was with us actually yesterday. We were with 2 groups that we had. One was here at UFG, the other one was at Melody. This is your meeting. So what I would like is first to introduce Lama. So Lama and I worked together now for the past 2 years. We have been working as part of Veritech for the W4F program. A couple of you, Nadine and the Quintac group has been part of it. This is one of the programs where we support innovative SMEs in scaling and accessing funding if needed. Lama comes with 17 years of experience in the management consulting, in corporate banking, development, and she actually ends up doing all the work. I end up getting all the credits. Today I'll be talking most of the time, but tomorrow she will catch up. But really all the work that is being done is thanks to her. Without her I won't be able to deliver those things and to continue the work that we do. So this is part of basically one of the main items that we have is to not only Hassan and I and a few others, we have to pass it on to the next generation. So they need to take this and they need to continue to do the same sort of work, being in terms of these workshops, being in terms of the coaching sessions, being in terms of funding and helping you raise the funds that you need, and being in terms of being on your board and helping you execute on these recommendations that we have. So all of this, you have to pass it on. And this is one of the reasons why I'm very blessed. What I would like to do is to ask you. We have here 3.5 hours. Tomorrow we're going to have 3.5 hours. So what are 1 or 2 topics that are important for you in governance? So if you want to take, you have 7 hours that you're spending, which is a lot of time. What is the 1 topic that you would like to be addressed? So this is, and we have the ability to be able, we have to list them. I forgot to ask for a flip chart, but we can write on a piece of paper. Okay, so we have, so what are those topics? What is this is your ability to be able to shape this journey. We have an agenda, we have slides, we have case studies, we have reading materials, you're going to get all this, but on top of this, if there is one wish that you have, what would be this wish? No wish? Shito bala wish?
So I come from the non-profit world, so it would be good to cover the angle of how to improve how it should work, but how about early stage startups? When do they need to set up a board, an advisory board? What's the board? What are the liabilities? We touched very briefly on this yesterday. So maybe on kind of the earlier stage company.
Now for those of you who are talking about networking, Zena is heading the live program focusing on SMEs development. So one of the many things that she does is she organizes those demo days. So she is having one in Paris, where you have, these are Lebanese companies pitching in Paris to raise funds. She did one in Dubai. How long ago was it in Dubai?
We did 2 in Dubai, one in 2023, one in 2022,
yes.
One in Paris last year.
Yes.
And this year we're doing Paris next week, London in June, and New York.
Okay, so this is one of, life is the expats. So you will see that expats are going to play a big role in terms of helping you in setting development stuff. So a number of you here are expats that you do. What Zena does is that she gets those expats, we work together, and we try to see how we can support innovative SMEs. So this is one way of doing it. The other program that she's doing, where we are working together with her and Tana, that is to select 15 companies. These are companies that are more on the startup, scale-up phase, provide them with a combination of grants, a combination of what we do today, which is capacity building, and a combination of advisory services. We sit down on average once every 2 weeks with each of these companies, and then we help them. It's like having a mini board where we have Fadalo, you have seats here. So we will have to come in, Fadalo. So the points that Zena is bringing is how does this apply from startups to scale-up. You will find one of the answers is you will find that there is a lot of similarities when we work with for-profit versus non-profit, when we work for startups versus scale-ups versus corporate, but you will see that some of the templates might not be as relevant for one versus the other. And this is why the hand-holding, the session that we have with the startup is very important to ensure that you have customization. So you will see a series of templates, and some of these templates you will say it's not now. Maybe in 2 years down the road, or 10 years down the road. But we will cover this and we'll hint to those elements. The other one which is important is the notion of an advisory board versus a board of directors. An advisory board, we advise. We advise, and then at the end of the day, the CEO decides to take the decision they want to take. I have no liability on the quality of my decisions. A board of directors, if for instance, I don't know, Michel Devalle or who is here, and I'm on the board, he's not on the board, if I take decisions that are detrimental to the shareholders, I am liable as a board of director member of not meeting the expectations of protecting the interest of high. Lama, we need to bring some more chairs. Okay. All right, so this is, any other question? Further.
No, I just want to understand how important is diversity among the board members.
Okay, we will cover this. We will cover, and diversity has many dimensions. So many dimensions. So part of the dimension is functional diversity. The other dimension is gender diversity. The other dimension is sector diversity. So all of those have, and we will be. And at the end of the day, it's core. The more diverse is your, but it's not only a question of diversity. It's a question of diversity and alignment of the expertise of the board members with the pain points that you are facing. But diversity is critical, because if not, everybody starts thinking the same way, and then you need to have people, and we will cover this. We will cover it to be happy. So any other questions or any topics? Further.
ESG factors are going to be tackled for corporate governance?
Now we have addressed ESG in the previous one. ESG is fundamental, and it's getting more and more important. Why? Because a lot of the investors are becoming impact investors. So we're shifting now from traditional financial investors to impact investors. And impact investors, they're looking for return, but much more important for this is what is the ESG impact that you generate. So I've invited Yasser Akawi. Yasser is the person who has done the most ESG certification in Lebanon. He's going to be part of the panel today, and he will be discussing on it. ESG is an important element in your governance structure that you need to have. He will cover some of the points and some of the experience that we have. More and more, so أنا هختلك وقفة بسيطة. عبد الحسن كان في محل.
Second row في محل.
Soha is also working with us. So we have Soha, Lama, you've mentioned Hassan, you've met with Zena. So these are all people that are part of the ecosystem, and we're driving in the same direction. It's to provide the capacity to this ecosystem that we have, that today needs a lot of support and a lot of help, not only in terms of funding, but also in terms of capacity building and in terms of ongoing advisory services. So ESG, any other questions or points that you would like to cover?
What is ESG?
ESG is
Test.
ماشي لا ماشي اوكي يعني كل اللي قلته هلا خلاص راح لا يا عمي ما اتفقنا هيك بدنا نرجع ما عندنا وقت طيب اوكي so ESG is becoming a very important aspect in your governance structure. Actually, G for ESG is governance. The E that you have is your environmental. The S is social. So basically, what is the impact that you generate in environmental, water savings, energy savings, food production, on the social job creation, rural empowerment, women empowerment, on the governance structure, how well-sounded today is really about the governance structure. And ESG, the same way you have ISO certification, you have also ESG certification that helps you in order to basically get that you are in tune with all. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
Maybe how to leverage accountability and efficiency and the level of board management into cooperation between private business and NGO.
Okay, now you will see. The question is going to be, which is at the essence of governance. At the essence of governance is accountability. Actually, you have several elements. Transparency is one. The other one is accountability. We will tell you how we work with non-profit and with for-profit organization in order to underline this level of accountability. The way we do it is we do it through what we call the balanced scorecard, which is basically a roadmap. A roadmap in terms of what key performance indicators you are going to be, you and your team will be accountable for, and what are the key strategic initiatives that need to implement. We'll show you examples that we have done with non-profit and with for-profit companies, so you'll have the difference between the two. The model that we do is different, is the same. The KPIs, the key performance indicators, might be different from one to the other. So you will see, but the approach that you will see, and this is a theme recurring, what we do for profit and for non-profit, you feel non-profit we're different. Actually, in some ways you are different that you have, but in terms of the process, it's the same process that you do. Some of the templates will be applicable to you. Others might say, I might not be that applicable to me. You know, I'm not into profit maximization. I'm into impact maximization. How do I measure my impact? How do I scale my impact? These will be the measures. Zena.
Like for example, you have guidelines on, for example,
Yes.
let's say a chairman gets elected, but the chairman is not necessarily the best equipped to run the organization.
Yes.
What are ways to basically circumvent
question to ask our panelist members. Because you have some of them are chairman. So Fatih, for instance, Bani is a chairman that will be here. He's the executive chairman. So it's a chairman that is not independent, but is actually executive chairman of the Bani Sayali group. And he's at the same time the chairman of the Bani Agri group, asking this question. Now, I could give you the answer, but it's better that you get it from him. I think it's an important one. He's going to smile, and I'll be curious to see what answers he will have. But at the end, the message is the family. The family plays a role in deciding who is going to be the chairman of the organization. So the family, the shareholders, there is a family, either convention or there is a family that decides on some of the key nominations, and some of these key nominations.
It is a governmental company.
So it's a governmental.
Then it's the WASCA.
It's the WASCA. So it's a different. Here we're focusing on NGOs. We're focusing. But this could apply to government and non-governmental company. But ask a question to fight tomorrow. Yes.
How important communities is to the corporate governance, and would that impact differs from with profit and?
Can you repeat the first part of the question?
How communities impact the corporate governance?
Yes.
And would that have a different aspect or different influence to the with profit or non-profit?
What do you mean by communities? Can you be more specific?
It can be the employees,
yes.
Can be the customers,
okay, very
can
good.
be the stakeholders,
absolutely.
Stakeholders.
So very important. The way we will track accountability, I don't know who asked the question of accountability, is we do it across the stakeholders. So what we do, we tend to focus accountability on the financial element, which is only one dimension, which are shareholders. It's one dimension. But you have other dimensions, which are your customers, the clients that you have. Another dimension could be the employees that you have. Another dimension are the partners. So what we do is we do this, but we do it across what you call communities, which call stakeholders behind. Okay, so this will be, and we will cover it. Any other questions?
I have a question
concerning
the implementation of the governance structure.
Yes.
And the obstacles or the difficulties to put a governance structure in place.
Yes. Okay, this will be also a great question to ask the audience. So you will have, I mean, I could give you my, we will show you the how. So we'll show you the templates, what are the steps that you need to go through. Each one of these organizations might have difficult challenges to implement those. But we will show you, we will also bring you people who have implemented it and went through it if you want the same sort of pushback. Because the last thing that anybody wants in Lebanon and in the region is accountability, it's transparency, it's being able, so they will do everything that they could do to push it back. Because once you implement it, it's finished, it's clear. And taking difficult decisions in terms of maybe, somebody mentioned letting go of chairman or letting go of a CEO. These are tough decisions to take, but you have to take it on the basis of clear governance structure. You still have some seats. Lama, il faudra avoir d'autres chairs. Okay. So we have, so for the latecomers standing up, for the very latecomers kneeling down, so this is la punition. You have some seats that we can put in the back. Je te laisse coordonner ça. Okay, so this is, any other questions? Okay, it's going to be busy. You're going to have different support material. You're going to have the slide sets. All of you will get a copy of the slide sets. You're going to have case studies. These are case studies of real-life companies that we have worked with. So we're going to go through some of them quickly because we have a lot of material to cover. You're going to have also some documentation for you to be familiarize yourselves with it. Most importantly, if you feel that you need a hand-holding, we're here to help you. We have in this room a number of advisors, board advisors, people who have 30, 35 years of experience on boards of different companies, and they're here in the phase of their life, like in my case, we're at an inflection point. It's not about power, it's not about money, it's not about prestige, it's about really giving back and allowing the next generation of Lebanese, despite the crisis, to be able to stay in this country, invest in this country, and continue to do this. So we have, and a number of them are here. So you have, I don't want to put the names, but those, Gabi is here, you're going to have the people who are going to speak, are here. Suha is, where is Suha? So it is, so it's here, so you have a number of people who have been working and advising, being it startup, NGOs, ONGs, Zena also on it. So what you need to do is reach out to these people and don't feel ashamed. Alone, you will not be able to do it. You need someone to hold your hand. Why? Because it's a disciplined process. And the last thing that we as Lebanese want is discipline, accountability, transparency, هيقولي صعبين شوي, especially when you get from private sector to government sector, it becomes very difficult. But I'm not here to make politics at all. Any other questions? Okay, we will start. La match we're all done. Okay, so what you want, what they have to hear is...
I guess we just need you please to scan this so that we can issue certificates tomorrow and Okay, si jamais il y a une erreur, je prends vos noms d'ici.
Okay, so what we need is we need for each one of you your name. We need also your contact detail. I know that you have registered, it's in it. I'm sorry to bother you on this for two reasons. One is we're going to issue certificates. These are USG certificates on governance that you will get from the doyen and myself. The other one is that we will reach out to you to send you all the documentation that you need to have access to. So it's important that Lama gets your contact details for it, and we will also ask you to do a very short evaluation, one-page evaluation, what you like, what you did not like on it, and in case you felt that this was of value to you, 2 lines on what sort of value did this bring to you. This is important because this is how we spread the knowledge across the community that we have. Okay, we're all set, no more questions? Yes?
Regarding transforming an NGO into a social enterprise.
Yes.
There is some reluctance
Yes.
sometimes within the board of the NGOs
Yes.
to do that for the reason that maybe they don't really understand the concept that this is now a must-do
Yes.
for survival
Yes.
purposes. So are there any ABC guidelines?
Yes. Okay, look, and we were lucky to work with several NGOs, and the main reason why we're there is we're trying to have them shift from being an NGO, which is relying primarily on donations, to an organization that is a social enterprise, where you still could rely on the donations. Nadine, who is next to you, gets some of her funding through donations. But she's next to you. But at the same time, she has her own business model that is very profitable and is doing well. So what you need is to help those NGOs define what is this core competency that we could turn into a revenue-generating model. This is essential. And then help. So for instance, with Maya Ibrahim Shah, she might join us later. Maya, what she did, she had millions of dollars that she was raising. But at the end, I told her, Maya, this is not sustainable. So if you don't have a center that is allowing you to generate, so she created Bait Cans. So Bait Cans she created, she had the 2 stock, very profitable. The money used in Bait Cans is used to what? To fund the supermarket, to fund the pharmacy that is providing free food, providing free medicine, and providing education. Now what we're doing with her, we've been talking today on it, is we're taking the whole building where she has Bait Cans, and renovating this into a foundation for the arts and crafts, but at the same time a boutique hotel like you will not have in Lebanon. Why is this? This is revenue generating. What do? You have a lot of the ambassadors coming in to be able to promote, but at the same time those profits are going to be used to fund what we need to do in terms of more impact that we want to create. So this is, and what we're trying to do is now create, because this is a big issue, and it's an issue that is close to Lama and my heart, is to get together a number of NGOs and have a program. Today we've been focusing on startups, on scale-ups, on mature organizations, but we had in some ways let go of the NGOs. And there is a role to play in selecting those, taking the success stories that Arc-en-Ciel had, that Beit el-Baraka had, and others that were well established had, and what is the DNA that is needed in order for the others to be able to learn from. And this is a program that we're trying to now to launch and to get the right support and to do it. So it's at the core, and historically we have not spent the time with those NGOs. Well, NGOs, they are suffering. Why? Because there is a fatigue. The Lebanese now today, خلاص, يعني تعب, giving and giving on this. The DFIs are less interested. Why? Because of what is the situation in the country, because of what's happening in the south, because of what's happening in Ukraine. So you are in a situation now where a number of NGOs who have been operating for 20, 25 years with excellent impact, excellent ESG, are closing down. And it's for them, for the creators, and they've been doing it on a benevolent basis. It's really as if your baby is dying, and you've invested 20 years of your life in it. So we are looking at it, and we will be working on it, and you'll hear about it some more in the future. But it's a very important point. We have part of the answer. We are learning and working with those successful ones, and taking their DNAs in order to be able to apply it to others.
But I don't want to hear about it. I want to be a part of it.
See, well, I know. This is what we're doing. Actually, in some ways, we're doing it indirectly. There is a Lebanese social enterprise. A number of them are NGOs. You have the Maison de l'Artisan. What is the name? L'Artisan du Liban, or la Maison de l'Artisan? L'Artisan du Liban are examples of NGOs. So what we do is we group them together, and then we go through a similar sort of session that you do, going into a bit more detail, so as to help them. So if you're interested, get back to Lama. It's next week that we're doing this event. And it's, she will tell you that, but we will have these events on an ongoing basis. Any other questions? I think we have enough questions. It's hot today, and I'm working. So I don't know, is there air conditioning or there is no air conditioning?
Caroline is checking below, but she's checking how to increase it.
لا 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 مش okay. Okay, so okay, so we نعم هلا شغال هلا وقف فتت البطارية. طيب من وين نجيب بطارية جديدة؟
Tap on it.
It's red.
Tap on it.
Tap on it. ماشي الحال هلا ماشي بس it's red. Okay, it's all right. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do at now time, foundations and benefits of effective. So why are you here? Why are you here? Why should you care? So this is the first question. The second question is how do you make it happen? So we go into the details of board composition and the board organization. It's going to be a series of templates. Some of them are not new. Some of them are new. It's up to you then to decide with your board on which are the one that makes more sense to you. Split of responsibilities between management and board. This is very important. You're getting management include the CEO. So what is the role of the CEO versus the role of the board, the role of the CEO versus the role of the chairman, what are the delegation of authorities? This is a very sensitive issue, especially as you get new chairman on board, or new group CEO on board, or new CEO on board. This is important. Culture, risk management, and internal control. At the end of the day, it's important to have the right foundations from a finance, business controls in place. You cannot build an organization without this foundation in place, and we'll show you the examples how to do it. Topics addressed and decision taking at board meetings. What do we discuss? Why, when Nadine has her board, what does she discuss? Are her list complete? Are there things that are missing that she's not covering? So we'll cover, and we'll show you not only what is discussed, but we'll show you the agenda, and we'll show you the templates that we use in order to be able to answer the question that will be raised on what should board do. At the end of the day, what's important for each one of you, if you are thinking of setting up a board of advisor or a board of director, is to make sure that what is the thing the most important? Because this is going to take you time. And for those companies, for the established companies, they actually pay to have board members coming on board. Why should you go through it? What is for you the most important value? Succeed. Of course, to succeed. Basically, you need to make sure that this board is actually adding value to the executive team. If it's not adding value, baleha, تضيع وقت. And if it's not adding value, it's maybe because you have not selected the right people, you have not structured it the right way, your agenda maybe is addressing two different or two generic issues, and I've seen boards like this, which are more compliance related than actually value added. So these are questions that are important to address. So topics addressed, this will be a key part of the decision. The best practices, you're going to hear it. So it's not Constantin, it's going to be a number of experienced people with more than 30, 40 years of experience working with boards that are going to here to share their experience, but take the opportunity to prepare your questions. Even if it's tough questions, this will be the right time to do it. So you get it from there. This is the best practice from effective board, and then we have the roundtable. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the pillars. You've seen this in the invitation. I don't want to go through it too much, but these are in some way some of the pillars of effective governance. You need to make sure that from a strategic direction, you have clarity. In your mission, vision, values, this, you should have it. If you don't have it, we will help you put it together, but this is important. Why do you exist? Where are you going? How are you going to get there? These questions need to be addressed. And what is my role as your employee in this organization? So, why do we exist? Where are we going? How do we get there? And what is my role? You answer to these 4 questions as a CEO, you've answered a number of questions. It's under your strategic intent. The second one is your strong leadership team. A big issue at the end of the day is execution. And the way you look at execution is to make sure that you have a complete leadership team, and this leadership team is very diverse in functionality, in experience, in gender that you have. This is a fundamental element. So a lot of the failures would come, lack of governance, either you don't have clarity on where you're heading and how to get there, or you don't have the right leadership team to execute. Strong board oversight through independence. A lot of the boards in companies are what? For family businesses. In Lebanon, most of these are family businesses. What do you end up having a board? The actual board starts where? At the dinner table. So what you do is that this is where we discuss the matters. So it's at the dinner table that you have these discussions. You need to move them from the dinner table to move them to proper boards. But to move them to proper boards, you still have family members. The reality is that there is going to be an evolution, and we see this happening, and I had the chance to work with very well-established organizations, is you start with family members, you start with the boss being the chairman and at the same time the CEO, having his sons being appointed as board members or his daughters appointed as board members. Then you move to the second phase where we realize, okay, maybe we need to have a CEO that is independent, i.e. non-family member. So this is the first step. First step is you realize that we need to move from family to independent, non-family members that you have or non-family members that are present. Then there is a third step, where maybe the chairman doesn't need to be a family member that you have. Boards are going through this, and this is very important in terms of an evolution. So the question here becomes that you need to make sure that you have this evolution. Transparency around performance, key strategic direction and decision. This is going to be the balanced scorecard. This is very important, and in these board meetings, things that we discuss is one, your cash flow forecast. And a number of you maybe don't have a cash flow forecast, but it's at the essence. Because at the end of the day, it's not your income statement, it's not how much donations, it's how do you manage your cash. Where is cash coming in, where is cash going out? So you have the cash flow forecast, but the other thing that we discuss is the balanced scorecard that we will share with you a number of examples. This is about transparency and this is about accountability. The two are closely linked that you have. The third one is risk management. Situation in this country is hell. It's going to get worse before it gets better. The sooner you're accepted and the better you're prepared to how worse it's going to be, the better you have a chance to survive when the situation will get bad. Hopefully it won't. I'm a strong believer that the situation over the next 3 to 5 years that Saudi Arabia will sign the peace treaty with Israel, that Iran and Saudi Arabia will get together and get their alignment, but this might take 3 years, it might take 5 years. But at the end of the day, I think this will be the beginning of a region where we have a bit of stability and not these ongoing warfares that we had over the past years. So I believe that this is going to happen, and I believe that a number of the companies today, but they have to sustain for the next 3 to 5 years. وهيدي صعبة because a lot of people are questioning, there is unfair competition coming in that is coming on. So this is important. The risk management helps you list what are the key risk areas, what are we going to do to resolve them, which are the ones that have high priority, high impact, and what do we do? And this is also a responsibility of the board. A board that does not spend time on assessing the risk of the organization is a board that is not doing their job completely. Okay, so you have integrity and strict compliance with relevant laws. This is a sensitive subject. I have a close friend of mine who say, Constantin, why should I pay taxes? The taxes are going to the government. I don't trust the government use of the money, so I don't want to pay taxes. By doing this reasoning, we're actually starting to, the whole system will end up failing. So it's quite important that we start ourselves by cleaning our own house before asking others to clean their house. So this is important, and it's a subject that is very close to my heart. I was working with a very successful organization that had 2 or 3 different, what I call financial statement, depending who they talk to. At one point in time, we said, look, either we stick to one or you find yourself another advisor. Double book or triple. You have triple. So you have for investors, you have for shareholders, and you have for government. So you would have active stakeholder engagement, including with shareholders, employees. Okay, so this is the whole alignment. You don't align your stakeholders. This came from one of the questions, and we'll show you ways how you align it. it's going to be a very difficult process in terms of building your governance journey. And the last one is regular performance monitoring. If you don't monitor, if you don't have the discipline, this is why the board meetings are here, is to set the discipline. There is the discipline. We want to review your cash flow forecast. We want to review your balance scorecard. We want to review your quarterly financial statements. We want to review where you stand on your key strategic initiatives. If you don't do this, things disappear, things split. So this discipline is fundamental, and it's a cultural change and value change that a number of organizations needs to go through.
What about self-assessment?
Okay, we're going to discuss this. It's a very important topic. We should have it here. We don't have it, but it's a good point. You cannot have a well-functioning board the same way that you assess a chairman, you will assess a CEO, you need to assess the board. And this assessment needs to take place either once every 2 years. For instance, with one of the company, we have some of the Debani group, we sat down with Fadi, who is the chairman, and we as board members assessed. So we went through, I shared an assessment, board assessment, and we went through as a board. You could have it as board, or you could appoint an independent party to come and to meet one-on-one, because there are things that you do one-on-one that you won't say, but the board assessment is fundamental. And the same way that you will change a CEO if the CEO is not performing, you also need to change a board director if the board director is not performing. This is very important. So accountability not only applies to the organization, it applies to you as a board member that you have. And it's important that you do it, especially if you feel that some of the board members are not contributing. You know, they're not contributing the way, even if they're doing it on a pro bono basis. And this is difficult. You're giving me a hard time, I'm giving off my time. It's better not to. It's better to pay, but to make sure that you're getting value out of it. Next slide, please, Lama.
Define value, please, about the board member.
Okay, value a board member is like, I mean, if I ask Nadine has a board, or if, and I ask Nadine, how many board members do you have, Nadine? 5 board members. So out of the, I don't need names. Okay, if there is there one that is adding more value than others?
No, because they are diversified.
So different function. So how would you define value? How do you know that after your board meeting you got value out of your board?
They are adding topics to what we miss, for example, in the cash flow or in the financial part or in the marketing part. So they are adding some of their expertise and know-how to the company.
So to answer the question and to back up what I fully agree with what Nadine said, you're here, you're going to have a set of process to run your company. Some of these processes are best in class, others are very poor process. The role of the board is to tell you this process is not working. I'll give you an example. Talent retention. What are you doing to retain talent, which is a big issue today? So what do you do? So is this process working or not working? What is the level of talent retention and what are we doing? So this is an example. It could be on cash flow management. How good are you in understanding the funding gap that you will have in the future if there is a crisis? Are you well equipped if there is a crisis? So these are examples. Financial budgeting. It could be on the way you approach customers, access to markets. What are the, is this the right channels that you have? Your level of innovation in the group. You know, are you moving, are you traders, or are you trying to get in? So you have different elements in the value chain of the organization where some of these processes are best in class, other processes are not best in class. The role of the board is to tell you maybe we need to spend more time here, and this is, by the way, what could be done and done in another organization that you do. Is this clear? So this is value. At the end of the day, how do you measure it? You measure it in terms of value creation. So what is the value creation? You have 2 dimensions. You have a number, but you have 2 important ones. One is the financial. At the end of the day, for instance, we're hiring and planning, and we sat down, we want to have, in one of the organizations that we work, a group CEO. So we're putting the group CEO. His package is a very big package. I won't mention, but it's a very important annual package and bonus package. But most importantly than this is the shares that he's going to get of this organization. And these shares, over a period of 5 years, could amount 10 times the annual salary that he's making. So why are we doing it? Because he is creating financial value. You're creating financial value, صحتين قلبك. We will give you this portion of the show. You're destroying value, you won't get anything. So this is financial value. But the other element is somebody asked about ESG. So what is the impact that you're creating? Because we are here, environment, social, creation of jobs, protection of the environment, women empowerment. So you have a number of others. And more of investors are not looking at only financial value, they're looking at ESG value creation. And this, you could ask Yasser, who will be here, you have a ways to be able to track it. How much of an impact are you creating? How are you measuring the impact? I go back to Nadine because I like getting on her. But Nadine would say, يعني شبعت معكم مع ESG impact. يعني she had to measure every single thing that she has. But at the end of the day, what she's doing is that she's setting the milestones to be able, this is the impact I'm creating. This is how much I'm going to create this is how I'm going to make it happen. Because investors today are looking not only on your financial viability, but they're also looking at the impact that you're creating and how sustainable is this. So these are two ways to measure the value. But you have other ways. You have other ways, which is you as a human being, you've learned in the process. So there is a lot of value that you've acquired. And this is one of the things that I do with Lama. You know, she is a bright, young mother of two beautiful girls. I involve her in some of the board meetings where I am participating. For her, it's an ability to learn and to grow. So she's getting the value by being exposed to things that at her age would be normally 10 or 15 years more to be able to come. But this will be also part of you gaining value, you gaining knowledge in order to be able to do your job better. Okay? Any other questions? So this is what day 1, day 2. Day 1, we're going to cover those. Purpose, composition, board responsibilities, internal controls and management, board effectiveness. We'll have the round table at 6 o'clock. So they're going to be here. Ask your questions. This is a beautiful time. Not only ask questions, these are all people that could help you. If you're looking at board members, every single one of them, trust me, I've worked with them, and they are an impeccable track record in what they do. Then we're going to discuss about growth opportunities, balanced scorecard. We'll see how much we could cover today by 7:30. We're going to have a break, one break. So we will have it probably before they come on board. So what time is it now? 4:40. 4:40, okay, good. So we're at 4:40. We're going to break 4:40 in about an hour and 10 minutes. Are you okay for an hour and 10 minutes? رح نعصركم. It's going to be a bit tough. Is my speed of speaking okay? في حدا عنده مشكل؟ فيكم تسألوا سؤالات بالعربي بالإنجليزي بالفرنساوي اللي بدكم إياه. So it's تفضلي. فينا نفتح شبابيك. Good question. في AC. It's رح تعمل. So you first of all remove your pullover. That's but it's true. Okay, this is part of the sweat of building a governance structure. So we're putting you. It's a very sweaty business, and you have to take it with humor. And trust me, they have experiences that are very tough, especially with family businesses, as you have a lot of family dynamic. Okay, so program. I've gone through the program. This is what differentiates us for others. The frameworks, everybody has frameworks. Everybody, you have frameworks. The difference comes is how you apply it. Very few have case studies. So this is what we're starting to build, is one case study after the other that we'll be sharing with you. This, few people have. And this is not case studies, Middle Harvard and no existing, whatever. These are real-life Lebanese companies that we have been working with and building these corporate governance together. Roundtable is important. This is going to be of value to you. The networking between yourself and with the roundtable participants and the ongoing coaching sessions. What we do, we're planting the seeds here. You will not be able to do the job. You could do the job alone, but we're here to be able to help you on this journey of building a governance structure that we have. Next slide, please, Lama. Okay, we have covered another seminar for those of you who were here on financial sustainability. For financial sustainability, which is a big issue for NGOs and for-profit, is built on your transformation pillars. What are the pillars where you're going to transform your company? It could be revenue growth, it could be profit making, it could be customer satisfaction. So what are those pillars? And we spend time on those pillars. And these pillars are going to drive your strategy. Your financial management foundation. How good is your financial forecasting, your cash flow forecast? من فضلك يا أنيني. يسلم هاليدين. لأنه راح بس I'm going to have about 50 jealous pairs of eyes looking at me. عم بيشرب ونحن عم نقرأ. Okay, so we have the other one is you need to, all of you, we have in terms of challenges, if you ask the challenges across the organization, what do you think are the key challenges? What do you think are the key challenges? I'm sorry. What do you think are the key challenges that HR typically it's basically either accessing talents or retaining talents. A number of you are losing people, and you're losing people for different reasons. So this is one of what is the other challenges? So access to talents, retention of talents is a huge challenge. What are the others? Access to capital is the very fundamental one for a number of you. Being it small, being it large, and we go through the process. There is, beside access to capital, access to talent. What is the third one? Okay, you have access to the governance, advisory services that you need in governance is important. You have another one which is fundamental. No, it is investment management is part of the access to capital. We help you build it. What is the other one? What are companies doing? What is رح وقف نادين رح بلش شوي عم عزاهر. The way they're both competitors. They're the top 2 or 3 competitors. They're sitting next to each other. So you see, this is what we call co-opetition. You compete and you cooperate in it. So what do you think Zahir is going to be measured on? He's the GM for the Bani Agri in Lebanon. So revenue is basically access to markets. How is he going to grow? I'm not mentioning his figures, but he has a challenge this year. In 2024, we've seen the growth rate for Lebanon, and my question to his boss is how is he going to make it? What are the elements that are going to look at a 30% plus growth rate in a market where عندك حرب تحت conditions, so access to markets is fundamental. And this, he will live or die by his ability to access to market. So what is his access to market? Access to capital, we mentioned access to talent. So these are the key ones that are addressed in investment readiness, helps you address the access to capital. All of them have as a foundation board governance. If you don't have the board governance, bifruto. So this is, bear in mind, so this workshop where we cover these 4 pillars, and for those of you who are interested, we will be happy to share the slides and to share the documentation on the previous one, is we're going to, without a board governance that is a foundation, long term, you will not sustain it. Next slide, please, Lama. Okay, we're having next slide. Okay, why do we have a board? Go back one slide. Why do we need a board? Why do we need a board? I'm sorry? Add value is one. So we want them to add value. We've mentioned value. What else? I'm sorry?
The advisory board is to advise.
Yes.
Not the board. The board is to work.
Okay, so you have, so we have the advisory, we're going to use the 2 words, advisory board and the board of directors. We have it, and we said the advisory difference, just to make it sure, because it was asked before. An advisory board, I'm here to advise. At the end of the day, you're the CEO, you decide. I'm advising. If you fail, I advise you. So I'm not liable. I am not liable. A board of director, I am liable. This is the difference. So if I advise you wrongly, I am liable. And this is why a lot of directors have an insurance policy to make sure that they're not being billed. So we're going to cover it. So why do we need boards? Okay, so it's not to set. The board is here to validate a strategy. The strategy is set by the executive team, but we could discuss it back and forth. We will go into the details. But the helping in setting the strategy and helping in validating the strategy is important. What else? Okay, to give perspective so you could see the environment. Normally these people come with certain experience. They know the market, they know the sector, they know the territory, they know the players, they know the challenge, so they could add value.
And the board will do the SWOT analysis at the end of it.
The board doesn't need to do the SWOT analysis. The executive team needs to do, as part of the strategic planning, the SWOT analysis.
Give it to the board.
And they will present it to the board for approval. So you're right, approval, the board needs to approve the strategy. The board needs to do what? Approve what? Budget. They need to approve a budget. They need to approve what? Beside the budget, what do they approve? Now, the budget is expenses. So what do we have? What do they approve? The financial statement, the audited financial statement of last year. So today as a board, we're in April 2024. I have a number of board meetings. You'll see some of the board members. What do we do in April? We approve the audited financial statement of what? Of 2023 that we do. We also should have approved the budget of 2024 already during the previous board meeting. We should have approved the strategic plan of it. What else do the board do? They would present, so how do they present the investors? Typically the board is here, what is investors looking? If you have families that are relying from, and you have these board members, what at the end family members look at the board or look at the company? What do they want? They want dividends. They want dividends. Who approve the dividend policy? The board. Dividend policies are quite important. So this is one way of doing. So these are elements that the board has to provide value added that they bring in. Okay, so we're going to, so what are the, why do we have a board? Helps validate key planning, budgeting, hiring, and investment decisions. Key. CEO level. So this is, we have. Instill discipline for timely and accurate reporting and review process. Every quarter, we want to see, what do we want to see? Quarterly financial results. We want to see your cash flow forecast for the next, 6 or 9 months. We want to see your balance scorecard. So we want to see it. We want to review it. And you have to defend it as the CEO or as the CFO of this organization. This is what we call the board pack, and we will go and cover it with. So where are you? Instill discipline, add complementary skills to the team. So there might be some areas of expertise that the executive team doesn't have. The board members might have it. It could be on the macro political side. It could be on other levels. Broaden the CEO's business network. We're here to open doors. So if Nadine needs to get, I don't know, into Iraq, we will tell her, look, we know the GM of Iraq and trying to do the business there, and this could be the potential people that you could have. This is important. Give access to new talents planned for succession. Succession planning is important. We always want to make sure, in case the CEO goes, what is our plan? In case the CFO goes, what is our plan? So succession planning is fundamental because this could be a key, what we call key man risk. If somebody leaves that is a senior position, we need to make sure that there is a clear number 2 to be allocated. So this is, the board has a role to play in ensuring that we have proper succession, that we're not left with gaps. If we're left with gaps, we have difficulty in execution. Helps the CEO maintain a strategic view, moderates founder syndrome. So what we said by founder syndrome is the founder, at some point in time, the founder needs to get out of it. So what we do is we have to manage this transition process while protecting what? When I was the CEO of Al Ghurair Investment, Abdelaziz told me, Constantin, look, I have 2 priorities. I want this organization to create value, but I have another priority. I want to make sure that the family unity stays one. So, and your role is going to be tough. You're going to be the bad guy, I'm going to be the good guy. So you're going to take all the shit that we need to have because you have to remove all people that should not be in this position, and I will work on maintaining the family unity after you have done damage in terms of the ego of a number of people. This is how it works. This is in terms of the caricature, I'm not exaggerating, but this is how it works. Because if you want to clean it up, you need to come up and address some performance issues for family members that could be brothers, sisters, uncle of organizations, but you need to take this and make the best thing for a governance structure that is the case. But this will take, but at the same time, family unity. So it's a balancing act between the 2. Next slide, Lama. Okay, typical topics. Recule d'une slide. What are the typical topics discussed? Come on, we discussed a few. What are the typical, so what you should see on the Zaher's agenda? So what do you think on the board agenda will be? New projects. So typically investments, big investments that need to come, that have not been included in the budget. Faddalo, this is the place to do. What else? Somebody? What else?
Challenges.
I'm sorry? Yes.
Challenges.
Challenges is too vague. Challenges, the executives will do it. Okay, the risk. So the board has a responsibility to look at the risk management framework. What are the key risks? What is the impact probability of happening? And most importantly, what is our contingency plan? And for this contingency plan need to be put into our strategic priorities. If you don't close the loop, ma عملت شيء مع risk. So risk and understanding the risk, especially now. We don't know which way it's going to go. We don't know. But we have planned for the worst. So when we sat down, we planned for small companies that we work with. Okay, how are you going to do it? Internet access. ما عندنا internet. شو رح نعمل? So what are we going to do? Where do we do it physically location? House? Do we relocate to Cyprus or relocate to Abu Dhabi or to Dubai? Do we have another location in the mountain that is safe? All of these things is part of risk that comes in. You know, if the bank stops operating, how do we get the money? So these are a lot of things that could happen. This is worst case scenario, but you need to plan for it and be prepared to be able to address it. What else? So risk management. Okay, so it's I want specific. So what are board discussions going to be? Financial sustainability is through cash flow forecasting. So cash flow forecast gives you, that is the cash coming in and cash getting out, and this you need to be on top of it. And what we hold, and this is one of the things that I've pushed with a number of boards, I don't want only to see your cash flow forecast. I want to see your actual versus your forecast. And if there are big differences, and these differences continue to be big, we probably have a problem. Either with the CFO or we have a problem with the CEO. So cash flow forecasting is an art that needs to be turned into a science. And the sooner you do this, the better off you're going to be, being it for NGOs or being it for-profit. Same sort of approach. If you don't know where your funds are coming from, you're faced to do, and we have discussions, I cannot pay my employees at the end of this month, Constantin. Don't bring me this news on the 24th of April. Don't give me this news. This, for me, presents that you have not done your job properly. You should have known already 2 months in advance and 3 months in advance. Don't come to me as an investor of last-minute resource. It's not the good message you need. And cash flow forecasting is important because it helps you in terms of financial view. What else?
CEO performance.
CEO performance. Who said CEO performance? Okay, this is very important. So CEO performance is by the board. So the board measures the performance. The boards decide not only on measure the performance, what is the bonus going to be? And I'm going to show you case studies on how is this done with one organization. Yes?
Adding human resources.
Okay, key human resources. So key positions, either within the board or CFO or chief marketing officer, chief people officer, whatever it is, or head of HR. So I don't want to use big titles on it. So key positions, board heads. What else? Okay, so this goes back to your investments. Key investments that is going, investment plans. This could be new countries, new categories, new businesses, new channels, all of those that requires funds and resources, and they're not included in our budget that has been approved. We need to put it on the board. Yes? Okay, so ideally, as we said, approving the strategic plan, I'm repeating myself. So you might have repeat, but for you to get it in your head, these are important ones. These are all great ones. Lama? Yes, the next slide. Okay, so this is quite important too. You have to look outside. What would, if you look, and I use this exercise, a number, and I'm asking all of you to do this exercise. Take it, this is part of the template. Look at how you spend, we're now on the 24th of April. Look at how you spend your time over the past 24 days. Look and tell me where have you spent your time over the past 24 days. And then I'm going to help you. Put it into 3 categories. Put it, how much was it in discussing what is happening today, or what has happened in the past. How much of it is to do with tactical things that I have to help resolve a problem that I have, and how much of it had to do with internal issues in the organization or in the family versus external issues. Problems today versus what's happening in 3 years, internal versus external, tactical versus operational. At the board level, you will see that a number of you are spending 90% of your time on tactical, today's issue, that is our internal. Your role as board members is to shift this balance to external strategic thinking and looking at, what I said, strategic internal, external strategic thinking. What is the third one?
Present.
And the future. So future. So you need to look at the future. So the role of a board, if all what we do is looking at today and looking at the past and looking at tactical things, and we're not doing our job. Our job needs to be thinking what's happening in 3 years down the road. Hence, the importance of what is doing with competition, what are the market trends happening. So if I look at your board agenda, if I look at Nadine's board agenda, I could tell you your board agenda is actually, if not 3/4 of your agenda is not spent on strategic issues, external and future looking, ما عم بيعمل دوره البورد. So ask yourself this question that you're going to have. So what do we do? So we have, typically boards are discussed. You have matters of approval. Boards have to approve. You have matters of discussion, and you have matters of sharing. I'm sharing with you. I don't need any feedback on it. I'm sharing with you because my role is to share with you this information. What are the decisions? These are decisions. We mentioned audited financial statements. Appointment of external auditor. External auditor every 5 years needs to change. ليه؟ لأنه بتعود والغلطات اللي عم تعملوهم بسيطة من مدرقة وكل شيء. No, you have to get the discipline. Approval of the annual strategic plan that we have. The financial budget for next year. Approval of key investment opportunities. Approval of dividend policy. Approval of annual compensation plan for the key staff, not all staff. Approval for debt and equity rounds. What we're going to do, term sheets. Hiring and compensation of key executives. So these are approvals. Yes, no. If no, why? What do we need to do to fix it? And these are decisions that you need to do. If some of those are here, might be relevant, might not be relevant to for-profit, non-profit, it's up to you to decide. Then there are topics discussed and guidance provided. You're here not only for having people approve, but to approve they have, and you will see that they need to have information, you're here to get feedback. I use Nadine, I should change Nadine. Gabby. So it is, so Gabby is here. He had in his job, he managed Procter & Gamble in China for several years, and he had to do where to grow. So and then he has 3, 4, 5 options, but to discuss it with. You know, these are the pros and the cons for each one. This is my recommendation, and I need to discuss it with someone. Where do you do it? You take it to the board. And the board's role is to be able to help. So in this case, development and review of a risk management framework. This is also board discussion. Quarterly cash flow forecast and monthly financial performance review. This is important also. This, we need to know it. We need to look at, is it going well? Is it accurate? If there is big discrepancy between the forecasted and the actual, we have a problem. And we need to fix it. Review of market trends, what is happening. Review of optimal capital structure. Where do I get my funding? Is it grants? Is it debt? Is it equity? NGOs, non-profit, you could get debt. When we funded Beit al-Baraka, we funded through debt. She got grants, but we funded it through debt. So you have also the ability to get, but what is the right one for you that you have? Development and review of your balanced scorecard. You will see it. These are the key performance indicators, the key strategic initiative. Review of internal audit reports. Important. Because your internal audit, most people say to what? Why do I need an internal audit? The problem is, we had situation, and I will not mention names because some of the people are in this room, where we had to fire the CEO primarily because of a key audit issues that came up, which was a huge surprise to this. Audit needs to have teeth. Audit is not here to just put the report and say these are the areas of risk and this is what we need to do. If this is not acted upon, there is a big issue in terms of the CEO's responsibility to own it. So internal audit shows what the red flags, either in business controls or financial controls. And you need to have an internal audit. Either you do it yourself or you externalize it to have, and we have 2 scenarios that could be working. So this is important, and I'm also a member of the Finance, Audit and Risk Committee of some of these companies. Besides being on the board, we have risk and audit committees that you have, and access and assess the performance of the CEO. Any question on those? So these are typically, Hassan.
Constantin, coming from the non-profit end, one of the responsibilities that we have as a board is to tackle all the legal issues.
Yes.
It's not at all part of the
Yes.
executive team, so it's part of the risk assessment and mitigation.
Absolutely.
But that's a big topic, and it
It's-
has to be set on every board.
Yeah, absolutely. So the legal, not only legal, they're saying that there are topics on legal that needs to be put on the board. So legal, tax, compliance is critical. Now in Lebanon, شو بدنا بالtax compliance, شو بدنا legal compliance, but normally in established organization, legal compliance and tax compliance is critical elements behind it, and it should be, and it will be enforced here in the country. For the moment, it has a lower priority compared to the others, but very important point, legal and tax compliance that you will have. Any other feedback or question? Is this clear, the list of questions? Based on this question, we're going to show you how agendas are being built. And we'll show you the templates that are used in order to answer those questions. So you don't waste your time in creating a new template. We have it for you. You just use it and decide which are the questions that are relevant to you. Some of the questions are not relevant. If I ask Maasid, what is the dividend policy, we say, Constantin, no dividends for the moment that you have, so it's not applicable. So the dividend policy is not applicable. If I ask Al-Majmu'a, what is their Zena, you say, Constantin, ya rate anna dividends, but ma fi dividends, ma fi share. So you have investors that comes in it, but it's not relevant. However, approving the financial budget, approving the strategic plan, this is applicable to Majmu'a, it's applicable to Maqasid, it's applicable to all the NGOs that are here in this room. Next one, Lama. How do we ensure? So these are the categories. So how do we ensure an effective board? The first one is the board composition and organization. So we're going to go now in the detail. The second element is clarify board and management responsibility. Where does it stop? Where we have CEO versus a chairman versus the board. How do you draw the line? And this is very sensitive because you don't want to have chairman and CEO stepping on each other. It creates a lot of frustration and no alignment. Plan and manage board meetings. How do we do it? Develop and evaluate the effectiveness of the board. Each one of them, we're going to show you templates. Next one. I'm going to go a bit quickly. What to look in board composition. Each one of you might have a board. I'm asking, these are the questions you should be asking yourself. Who do I want to have in my board? So the first question is diversity, an alignment that we have covered. Gender, age, background, skills, experience, alignment in value and ethics. So this is one. Diversity is important. The second one, independence. What do you mean by independence? Are you executive or you're non-executive? Are you family members, you're non-family members? I'm a non-family member, non-executive. I'm independent on it. You need to have independence. Why? Because I don't care. I'm going to tell the truth the way it is. I don't care to be fired by the company because I'm an executive, and I don't care I'm not going to create family problems. I'm an independent. I'm a non-family member. You need to have independent more members in your board. If not, you have an issue in terms of effective governance. Expertise and skills, you need to look at it here. The key is what are your burning platforms? What are the problems that you are facing? So if I ask Zena, and I say, the other Zena, we have two Zenas, and you're sitting next to each other, no, behind each other. So I said, Zena, what is your, she would say, Constantin, you know what my number one problem is. I have the most profitable venture with the greatest impact in Lebanon. Bring me money. Bring me money and bring me fresh money so as to be able to fund all these microcredit loans. I have been the number one for so many years. Today, very few people are wanting to honor. Why? Because the big donors, not donors, are today resistant to invest the $5 and the $10 million in Majmoa that they used to invest in about 5 or 10 years ago. And today they don't. Where we have a model that works, we have a model that's profitable. So her challenge is access to capital. Who could help in terms of access to capital? So look at your challenge, and this is the expertise that you need. Don't give me an expertise, I need a lawyer, if you don't need a lawyer. So tell me what are your pain points, and based on your pain points, we will then find out who is the right person to have on your board. Experience, track record, I think this is the same. This is skill set, this is track record. What do they have in terms of a reputation? You want people who have done it, not who claim to have done it, and you have to validate. The same way you do interviews and you do reference checking for CEOs or for others, you need to do reference checking for who your board members are. The board size, how many do you have? I've asked Nadine, she said 5. It's actually the good size. It varies between, it could be 3. When you start informally as a startup, it could be 3. You move to 5. At one point in time, you could be 7. It's always an odd number, by the way. Why? Because you're voting. So, so this is 5 to 7 is typically where you find most boards today.
It depends.
It also depends. I don't want to draw.
I'm on the board of Notre Dame University.
Yes.
For the last 30 years.
Yes.
And we are 25.
25 people. Woohoo! But this is different. This is different.
Exactly.
Why?
This is what
Why?
I'm
Because
saying.
Notre Dame University, like AUB, like NAU, what do they use their board member for? Funding. تفضلوا. How deep is your pockets? You know, how broad is your network? You know, it is, if you don't have deep pockets, have a network of people with deep pockets. اتفضلوا. But this is where you have to differentiate what we call a board of directors versus a board of trustees. The trustees is the fundraising. The board of directors بدنا نركز. يعني مش بس إنه قاعدين عندنا مصاري.
But I'm sorry.
إيه.
I'm sorry if I may.
Yes.
The board of trustees, I'm also at AUB.
Yes.
The board of trustees, we have committees.
Yes.
And the committees interfere
Yes.
in the management
Absolutely.
of the university.
Yeah,
Not only fundraisers.
I fully agree. I fully agree. No, I'm being,
Clarify this
yeah.
point.
I'm being,
I'm not competing with USG, but
no, but it's not, I'm not USG, by the way. I'm do the same at AUB, and we do the same, so it's, we work cross universities.
scholarship fundraising
For,
competition.
so we need to have her name and contact details. Okay, so this is important. No, but it's important. Committees are important because board at the end cannot do all the work. So what do? They delegate it. To who do they delegate it? Committees, and I will mention some of the committees and how they work. Very important. Fully agree. And you're not competing.
But I'm here now. I'm here now as the president of the municipal bank.
Okay, very good.
Has nothing to
So
do
nothing to do with this. Very good. We will sit down. Tfaddali.
Can we be a board member on 2 entities competing?
This is a very good question. The answer is no. So normally from a governance perspective, so normally you, say for instance,
I'm a board member at AUB. I'm the chairperson of the
yeah. I'm going to take a joke because I love to pick on Nadine joke. She said, Constantin, I love you. You know, and it's no, but no, yeah, I love you, but I cannot have you on your board, on my board. You know, I would love to have you on my board, but you're already on the Bani Agri board. Khalik and the Bani Agri board. So she was open, and I still love her. So even though we're not on the, so because it would have been conflicting, you know, it would have been conflicting. Although I'm sure she and Zahir share a lot, but it's, but from a proper governance perspective, you can't.
But sometimes the Makarem is good at attending.
This is the Lebanese way of, it's okay, but from a proper governance perspective, I mean, this is a conflicting. 10-year and renewal. Board are not here, so normally it's 1 year, it could be 3 years, typically it's 3 years, and after 3 years you review, and some of the boards stay, others leave. Why? You do the board assessment that you have. Culture and dynamics, so this is making sure that they fit in the culture. You know, each group have their own culture, and at the end, it's like a family. Are you going to be a member of this family and share the same values or not? And if you don't, it's going to be a problem. So you tend to choose people that have similar values and similar culture and availability. I mean, if, I forgot, what is your first name? Mona. So I'm going to pick on Mona now. If Mona is sitting on 10 boards, يعني Mona وين بتلاقي الوقت؟ يعني كيف, so how do you, so availability is important. Because on average, on a board, if you ask me, and we'll show you the list, do you know how many actual days? We measure it by hours, and I will show you, we've done the exercise. On average, for a normal, small, medium-sized enterprise, how many days are boards spending either in preparing or in participating in board meetings? How many do you think? 18 is on the high side. On average, it's about 10 days, 10 to 12 days. So you have to make sure that if you are on too many, because at the end, your value is not only to be at board. You need to have some sort of value generation activity that is important. Next slide, please, Lama. I'm sorry? No. 10 days per year. 10 days per year. Typically, it's quarterly board meetings. Typically, you have one strategic offsite. You need to have it. This is where you take with the executive team. We will go through it, and you plan for this, and then you prepare. You look at the 3 years. You don't look only at this year. You look at 3 years, and you might have some ad hoc. You know, if there is, I don't know, fundraising events. We're raising $20 million or $30 million in debt, or we have a major partnership or acquisition taking place. This could be a very special board meeting that takes place. Okay, tips on board competition. You've got it. I don't want to dwell through it. Identify areas of support needed. This is the work you have to do. What is the critical burning platform that you have? Align the background and track record of... Ça, c'est à la fin, normalement, non? Ou c'est... Okay, sur la composition. Align the choice of board members' profile, breadth, and years of experience. This is your tip. It's basically taking the previous point and putting it on one. So this is your tick list. Check it. What have you done with this and not? Next slide, please, Lama. Okay, this is important. What happened here is that you look, some of you are for-profit, non-profit, some of you are startup, scale-up, some of you are in the revenue generating, you have validated your traction, a number of you are here, and some of you are really starting the scaling and expanding overseas. The type of focus could be either customer delivery, market development, product development, sales, marketing, finance, operation. This evolves. Your need or your challenges evolve depending on where you are. So ask yourself, where am I? And out of those, which are the important ones for me? So if you're a startup, your human resources is very low. You have 1, 2 people in terms of a startup to start with. Your strategy is quite important that you have. Of course, when you're in the growth phase, everything becomes important in the element. But take this into consideration. Where are you in your development phase? And what sort of skill set or pain points you have? And what are the relevant board members that I want to appoint so as to help me address this. Next slide, please, Lama. Okay, this is another way to look at it. This is one of the groups. We said, okay, what are our needs? We want to raise money. We need somebody with investments. We need it. We need to have, we're looking at new markets and we need somebody with a strategic background, strategic management background. Okay, on the audit, we had few audit issues. So we need somebody that has that could be chairing the audit committee. And legally, we also need to have a legal counsel that is robust because of all the partnership that we're signing. So what we say, this is the rationale, this is the possible backgrounds. Then what do? We go and we search for the right people. And we have in our database, a number of you are in the database of the friends that we work with, the investors. We have advisors to board. We have potential board directors. You're going to meet a few that are coming in less than an hour to do it. So you do, what are your pain points? What is the rationale? What are the backgrounds that you would like to have? Who are the potential candidates? Then you approach them. Next slide, Lama. Next slide. Okay. What are the responsibilities of the board? We also covered it, but you have it here by category. One is a strategic direction. So you set it, but you validate it. You work together during the offsite. We work on the strategic direction of it for the next 3 years to 5 years. The second one is overseeing management, making sure that we are executing like we need to be executing. This is the discipline. Financial oversight, you could put also legal and tax oversight in it, making sure that we have providing the financial oversight, monitoring financial performance that is being done. Risk management that I mentioned, I don't want to dwell in it. Governance and compliance, ensuring ethical conduct, accountability and compliance with legal and regulatory requirements. Strategic partnership, a number of you will not do it alone. You need to have the partners. Who are those partners? How do we go about deciding which partnership? I don't know which companies you've been talking to that we have. You will have it. What's her name? Sabra. Yusr. So Yusr, for instance, is coming in. Yusr is expanding. Yusr now is raising capital. She has raised the first round we had together. She has raised now a second one, and she's preparing for her Series A. Her question is expansion. So she has Jordan, Bahrain, and Iraq. You have to decide which country. Why those countries? Then you have to decide, when you decide on the country, what is the next question? So we decided which are the countries. What is the next question? How? Okay, how do we going to do it? Is it us as Wakilni opening our offices? Or is it us doing a joint venture partnership? Or is it us licensing or franchising this technology to somebody else? These are important questions. Which country is an important question? Why do we choose those countries? Why not others? Why not Saudi Arabia or not Dubai? And then when we choose the country, how are we going to work with it? These are all fundamental questions that are related to strategic partnership. So if you want to do a joint venture with an entity, who is the right joint venture partner? So these are the sort of questions that you get at board level. Crisis management, we're in the middle of it, which is in some ways related to risk management, but this is focusing in case the worst comes to this country, no internet, no banking transactions, the hell is breaking loose, what do you do with your organization? So how are you going to continue operating? So these are more crisis management discussions, but you need to have it. Where do you have it? You have it at board. So board will look at it, we say if this happens, this is our plan B. And if the plan B is not working, this is our plan C. These are board decisions. Am I going too fast? Is this okay? Is the speed okay? All right, next slide please, Lama. Okay, this is the balancing act. Yani mafi, you need to have both. It's a balancing act that you need to get. You want at the same, this is all on board composition. You want at the same time to have people that are entrepreneurial and drive business, so people who really wants to make it happen, but you have at the same time people who have prudent control. It's balancing act between the two. You want people sufficiently knowledgeable about the working of the company, but at the same time you stand back from day-to-day management. Sometimes board tends to do a hands-on, it's not your role. It's not your role to go into the level of detail, but you need to understand enough about the company, but not necessarily to get into micromanagement, because this would frustrate your executive team. You need at the same time be sensitive to pressing short-term issues. We have cash issues short-term, but at the same time, we need to look at the longer-term view. And this is the balancing act. So you need to find board people who are jugglers. Jugglers in terms of these dimensions. Be knowledgeable of local issues, but at the same time, keep an eye on wider competitive influence. Where are we going next? Is this really Jordan or Bahrain? Why? Why Iraq versus, Turkey? Be focused on the commercial needs of the business, but at the same time, act responsibly towards employees, business partners, and society as a whole. So this is what I call, so when you ask me, what do you want as board members? I would say jugglers. Jugglers who have the ability to be able to do both. Manna hayne to find the right people, and you need this. So you have, so as not to make sure that everybody is either I know him, friend, same background, not but. The more diversity you have, and this is part of the diversity. Is this clear? Yeah. It's an important slide. Next slide. Okay, this is another way of putting it. So what are the duties of the board? Independence and integrity that you have. It's I need to speak my mind. I need to speak my mind. And sometimes when I speak my mind, it's tough. But it's my role to speak my mind. So you need to have the courage to speak your mind on it. and act in integrity cannot be compromised. If you start compromising on integrity, khalas, the whole equation gets openness. Openness, we have to be open. Some boards, you have people who dominate the board discussion. It's the role of the chairman to make sure that there is equal contribution from among all. ما راح نخلي منى تسأل كل السؤالات. بدي سؤالات منكم. يعني ما بدنا هيدا my role of اوكي.
ساعة بتسأل زينة
خلاص. طب وقفنا مع زينة هلا خلاص. Okay, accountability, we have it here, shared leadership, action orientation. So at the end, you know, if I go back to Nadine, I go back to Nadine, you know, at the end of the day, she needs help. She needs people who could roll the sleeves and help her on specific issue that they need. The more people shows that they're action-oriented, that they are accountable. اتفقنا إنه رح أعمل شيء وعملته، بس اتفقنا وقلته بالبورد وما صار إنه كلام. Be open. Don't try to hide your agenda. Play cards on the tables behind it. And at the end, mutual trust and respect. We have to confront CEOs who have bad performers, but at the same time do it with dignity and respect. And this is a tough act because every one of you has goodness, divinity in you, every one of you. So what you do, and our role is to be able to link to this divinity, help you blossom it. And in case it's not working, it's trying to help you. But at the end of the day, we're here to respect each other. So we have to take tough decisions together in tough times, but we have to do it in dignity and respect. So this is another way of putting it. And what I'm encouraging you to do is take this and to see on these, where are you scoring good, where are you not scoring good, and what can you do to address this gap. Okay, so these are all templates that you could use in choosing your board member. We're still on board composition. Yes. Okay.
You mentioned that
yes.
Someone says something like
yes. Okay. This is very important. What you do in every board meeting, when we start with the board meeting, what do we start? What do we start? Somebody said something. No, the meeting minutes. Meeting minutes. What happens at the past board meetings? These are the meeting minutes. With the meeting minutes, what you have? You have what we call matters arising. Matter arising is basically the action plan. We have agreed 1, 2, 3, 4. Who? 1, 2, 3, 4. When? 1, 2, 3, 4. تفضلوا. وين صلنا؟ شو عملنا؟ وعملنا. So this is one way of doing it. So every board meeting, we have approval of the minutes. We have matters arising. And then when we finish the meeting, we summarize what are the key minutes of the meeting going to be. So what you do, these are the ways that you are controlling that it is taking place. And if you don't do the reviews of the matter arising, ما عملنا شيء. ما استفدنا شيء. يعني there is no proper decision. So this is quite important. تفضلي.
So you mean that the board himself assesses
The board has now we have accountability to the CEO. We do it through the balanced scorecard. I will show you how we do it. But the board has a list of actions that they have ownership of. Part of it is ownership from the board member, but partnership could be the CEO, could be the CFO, could be somebody else on it. But those are discussed and agreed at every board meeting and reviewed during the next board meeting. So this is fundamental. So this is accountability is fundamental. Great questions that we have, and we have the answers. Okay? Yes, Hassan.
Constantin, on mutual trust and respect. That is really the hardest issue because even if you disagree with the board decision, you have to support it. The board has to speak with one voice.
Yes.
And that's usually the
Yes.
hardest.
Okay, this is very important because what happens, not only at board levels, it happens in the organization, is I don't know, I worked with 20 years with HP. One of the big decisions that actually influenced me to leave HP was the merger between Compaq and HP. And it was a 50-50 at board level, and it was a 50-50 at employee level, i.e. 50% of the employees hated to have Compaq being acquired by HP because HP stood for different values, and the other 50 said, no, this is a great thing to do. So what happened, they voted, and what happened, unfortunately, is that, and we voted and we decided to go ahead with, so either you accept, you have no choice. You have to accept it. You cannot go bitching about it. You cannot. At board level, and you cannot, or what you do is, which is what I did, is you vote with your feet. You vote with your feet and you say, look, I'm not fine. I'm leaving, even though I've been working with the company for 20 years and I associated myself with this company for so many long time because of different issues that came into the implementation. We still give them a year to see the benefits of the doubt. But you have to align. If you don't align, leave the organization. Don't try to bitch about it or complain about it. It's not helping. You have a decision has been taken by the board. We adhere to this decision, even though we completely disagree with the decision. So it's important. Thank you for bringing it up. Next slide, Lama, please. Okay, so this is important. This is where we go management versus board. Now, I don't want to spend too much time. What you have, the green is what, Lama? Green is the board, and the white is management. So what you do is you have a list of decisions. So that you have list of decisions from initiate the strategic planning process to strategic planning session to approving the strategic plan on operations, on financials. So you have some that prepares and some that approves. So this is one way. I'm not asking you to take this plan point. I'm asking you take it, but have your list. Have your list. This is recommendation. From our experience, what is the responsibility of management versus responsibility of the board? What I mean by management is CEO and the executive team. So this is management. The board, the CEO reports to the board. So you need to decide, but you need to have it. And this is need to have it, because if this is not clear, it confuses. And when you start to have confusion between the CEO and between the board, بلشت الصعوبات. So this is a list. I'm not asking you, this is based again on the experience. It touches board and committees, it touches hiring, it touches performance reviews, financial planning, operations, strategic planning, with key decisions. Who has it? Normally linked to this is what? This is what we do here, is we say who has the responsibility. What is the other element that is important with this template? Yeah, but there is something that you have. So this is one thing that I'm sorry? No, the articles, these are legal aspects. No, I'm going to simplify it to you. It's not only you split who is the responsible for what, you have what we call delegation of authority. As an executive chairman, I could approve this. As a CEO, I could approve up to this. Or I could approve, so you decide, and you have a delegation of authority on who approves what to which budget. Normally it's not mentioned. So what you do is you create this. It could be if you want, but in most cases it's not. Check your bylaws and you will see the delegation of authorities is not there. So delegation of authorities needs to be, so this, and we could send you an example, is that on each of these process, who is the one that develops it, who is the one that approves it, and maybe you have two people that needs to approve it, not one person. So, but this needs to be articulated. Because if not, you have, I don't know, you have a sales rep deciding to approve a credit facility for a $5 million customer. Kharab biyut. So this is, so you need to make it sure as to avoid to have, and then you have internal audit to make sure that this is being implemented. Understood? So it's not only split of responsibilities, it's split of responsibilities related with what delegation of authority. Next one. Yes. Okay. Okay, so the board, we deal with startups. So yesterday with Zena, we were with startups. These are companies that are up to $500,000 in terms of turnover. These are startups, mid scale-ups. So what we are planting in their mind is the importance of having. So what do we do? Nahna, we are three. There is Maya, there is Lama, there is myself. Zena is coordinating this. We have with them bi-weekly, we have those meetings. We don't call them board meetings. We call them review meetings. But we have, every 2 weeks, we sit down and we have the discipline to work with them. شو صار back 2 weeks? شو challenges you're facing? What are your priorities? You could do it 2 weeks or you could do it every month. It doesn't matter really in terms of the timing. So this was starting at a startup level. So we don't call them board of advisors. The moment you decide that you want to raise money, Ghassan is interested, he has $100 million, he doesn't know what to do with it. And you have an interesting project where you want, by the way, Montessori, you need to talk to Ghassan. So in terms of schools, so she's building a Montessori school. So you might be, so this is the networking that is part of it. So what you want to have, once Ghassan gets into the Montessori school, there is absolutely no way not to have a board. He wants to make sure if it's $500,000 or $1 million that he's going to put in, he wants to make sure that this money is well used. So there needs, you cannot put money in a company if you don't have, one, a legal structure, and two, if you don't have, so once you have investors, and it's better to get this exercise and this discipline before you get the investor so as to prepare yourself for it. So this is an important one. So from the moment you're raising capital, you need to make sure that you have a proper operation board. The board of advisors you start with to familiarize yourself, and then at one point in time, you make it more formal that you have. So this is, but I would say at least have an entity. So you do it informally. With Zena, we do it informally. So Lama, Welke, Constantin, we have it. So we do it either bi-weekly or we could do it monthly. And we start it with startups. We have it. It's not called a board. And we don't go to this level of detail. But what we do, we use some of these templates. And I'll show you which template we use, and these are for startups. For NGOs, same sort of process. When we sit with Beit al-Baraka, we have agreed, we'll show you actually the balance scorecard of Maya Brahim Shah. We will show you that is, we won't show the one for Al-Majmu'ah, although we have worked with Zena and with, they have their balance scorecard, they have this on it, so this is their cash flow forecast, everything that you do. So I will say NGO or for-profit, startups, scale-ups, or mature, you need to get this discipline in board. Not to this level of extent. You say, Constantin هذه كتير. I'm putting you, if you want a bit, the mature. But it's a process where you start informally, and then you develop with time, with the amount of investment that you get. The more investment you get, the more you need to have a governance structure. And at the end of the day, even if it's grants, the grants will come to you if they know that we could rely on your governance foundation. Because I'm going to give you money, free money. I want to make sure that you have the foundation in place in order to be able to use this money the way that is going to generate profit. Did I answer the question? Yes. Okay. So this is the split. Now here's the chairman and the CEO. A number of groups start with having the same person. And typically the person is the head of the family. So either the father of it, and he's the chairman, and he's the CEO. Mabtasbat, no, it's the same person. You need to have two. And you have different reasons that you have to... it is best practice to split the role of the chairman and the CEO. This applies equally to large and small organizations, profit and non-profit. Segregation of duties. CEO focuses on running the company. The chairman advises and probes decisions. These are two different roles. Don't try to do it the two together. And historically, it has been like this. Now they're starting to separate. And they're starting also to get the independent or the non-family members to come into one of these positions. And as you mature, you might have non-family members for the two positions, which takes a leap of faith, which is not easy.
The father is the chairman,
it's,
and the son
is the CEO. But he used to be the father chairman, وهلا عم ساعدك, and he's giving him CEO. But شو عم بيعمل الفاذر؟ عم بيعمل الCEO role غصبا عنه بيجي يعني problems where daughters or son decide يعني ما بدي اترك الشركة. I need to go do my own thing and then come back لأنه ما I'm not running as a CEO. Because why? Because there is an instinct of the chairman to do it, and this is an issue of family governance. Among board duties is to evaluate the CEO. So the chairman is evaluating the CEO. The chairman cannot evaluate himself. The chairman needs to, so there need to be, board independence is hindered, directors will challenge less. You have board and management process can sometimes be conflicting. So these are the reasons why you should never have at the same time your board chairman and your Nabil.
You know that in the law in Lebanon, you cannot separate the chairman and CEO.
Yes.
Now the new law separated the chairman
Yes.
and the CEO, so you can have in both in the company one CEO and chairman.
Yes.
I did this in a company.
Yes.
And the commercial registry in Baghdad refused to register the split of powers
Between the chairman. Yeah. 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 It is, so this is good. So legally, the law is following. Now, this is not enough. What's as important as it is, you need, especially as you're appointing a new CEO. If a new CEO comes and we have an executive chairman, so this is the chairman that is acting. So you have an executive chairman and then you have a new CEO coming in. You want to make sure that there is clarity on the roles and the responsibilities of each one of them. If not, it's going to be a problem. So this is fundamental when you have an executive chairman and when you have a new CEO coming on board. If not, you will create conflict. So how do you do it? We go and set not only the responsibilities. We have the role, we have the responsibilities, we have the what we call the third R. What is the third R? Role, responsibility are the first two R. What is the third R? The key results area. So what we achieve in terms of deliverable, it needs to be different from the CEO and the chairman. There is a 4 R. So we have role, we have responsibility, we have the key results areas. What is the 4 R? What is it? No. What? It's actually the rewards, the compensation of the chairman and the compensation of the CEO. Once you define these 4, role, responsibility, the key results, i.e. the deliverables, and at the same time the rewards, and you clarify it between the executive and the chairman, and you have both of them agree with it, of course, with the blessing of the board, you are in a good position. And it's not easily done. Next slide, please, Lama. Okay, next. Okay, here we're going to get into, so we went through the board composition. We're going to get here at the structure. We mentioned that there is a chairman. You might or might not have committees. As you develop, so for startups, you don't have committees. So for NGOs, you might have committees, you might not have committees. Typically, when you start with committees, audit and risk is the first one that comes in place. Why? Because you want the audit and risk reports to the board, doesn't report to the chairman. It doesn't report to the CEO. Why? Because audit and risk is assessing the CEO. So you cannot have it. So the committee does this role, reports to the board. So each one of those committees has a chairman, the chairman reports to the board. So what the board would do, it delegates some of their responsibilities to committees. So it could be audit and risk, it could be other committees. Depending on this, it could be compensation, it could be nomination committee, depending on what you need. You have another one which is an executive committee. You might have a period where you don't have a CEO. You might have an executive committee to take this role and to report to the board, and you have 2 or 3 people from the executive and from non-executive.
Sometimes you can have ad hoc committees.
You could have ad hoc committees. So it's the role defines, and we have what we call a board charter, and we'll show you an example of board charters that you could use and apply in your organization, that decide whether you want, on most cases for startups, stick to your board of advisors, move it to a board of directors. As you build a scale up, then you will end up with an audit and risk committee that you need to have in place. And then depending on the needs that you have, depending on your growth, you might have other committees. Each of those committees, 1 page, describing everything that you need on this committee. We'll show you this page. These are all templates for you to use and to adapt. Some of them stick, others do not stick. It doesn't stick, doesn't matter. It could be in 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road, but trust me, they are going to be at one point in time useful for you. It might not be the right moment now. Now, beside the board, you might have advisors. These advisors are not legally, they're here because they're experts in a certain domain that board doesn't have. And these are assignments, specific assignments that we need. It could be in finance, legal, strategy. You take them and you consult with them. And the board wants to consult with advisors. And they will pay for those advisors to come and to consult behind it. Okay? So this is, next slide, please. Okay, planning board meetings. We're going to show you also those templates. When we do, it's at the beginning of the year, we normally should know. I'm here now in April. Why am I in April? I'm based in Geneva because I know that most of the board meetings for Q1 are going to take place in April. So I spend a month and a half, and I have several board meetings coming in, and those board meetings, but we know it in advance. At the beginning of the year, we have planned when are going to be our board meetings. We have planned when is going to be our strategic offsite. We have planned when is the committee meetings will take place. So we set the board meetings, we set an annual calendar. So we do it up front. We set a rolling agenda. You will see that the agenda of a board differs. At the beginning of the year, in the middle of the year, you have different topics. Some topics once a year. Some topics twice a year. Some topics every single board meeting. Which one? We'll show you. It's up to you then to decide, because if you think that each board meeting is the same, it's not. It's, so you have, then you have the board meeting organization. Normally it's the board secretary. The draft, the board agenda, we need to circulate it. We call it a board pack. So this board pack needs to be circulated to all the board members. When do we need to circulate it by? What? 1 week before. Any other takers? 10 days, we said 10 days before. 10 days is closer, but normally it's 1 week. The reality is 2 days before. And no, we have it, and you have this, and the flooding and this thing. You cannot, you don't respect your board because the board will not have the time to go through the documents. And these documents need to be planned. And it takes a bit of time to do these documents. The board pack is important. So there is a responsibility of the executive team to develop the board pack, but there is an equal responsibility of the board members to go through the board pack, take the time, ask their questions, and be ready to come up and to add value into these discussions. Okay, so it's very important to have it. So you hold management planning and review meetings 1 to 2 weeks prior to board meetings, okay? Prepare documents and circulate to the board 5 to 10 working days before board meetings. Write minutes of meeting, Hakinafia. A board pack, what is a board pack? We'll go into much more detail. The meeting agenda, the draft minutes of the previous meeting, draft resolutions for matters outstanding, Hakinafia, draft financial statements and other financial reports, draft agreements or other documents that you have. This is the board pack, and we'll show you examples of board pack that you have. And this is a responsibility, yes?
Hello, Constantin.
Hi.
I have a question.
Yes.
Here you're speaking in the regards that best case scenario, you're building up a board. What are you looking at? If you're in a situation in which you need to change the configuration of your board, do a whole upcycle or whatever, like the damage is beyond control.
Yes.
What are
Exactly. She is the founder of Taka. So for those of you who are into snack power bag, she was an entrepreneur, started on her own in Tripoli. This was back about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. She's still smiling. You know, so it is, okay, look, this is a great question. What you do at this tape is, the first thing you need to do is an assessment. You need to, an assessment. You need to assess, and we'll show you. We'll show you a template, what is working and what is not working in your board. I need to understand it. And the way you do it, you could do it, I've mentioned it, you could do it with Fadi Debane, we've done it with the board altogether. But you might appoint someone external to come, and if you think that there's really major issues, they will not open it up during the board, so it's one-on-one discussions that you have. And somebody external is not conflicting, could do those jobs, but you need an assessment. You need to understand, and we'll show you what are the levels, we'll show you what is a typical questionnaire looks like, and you do. Once you do the assessments, and we'll show you, with biomass, for instance, we have done this, and I'll show you the assessments, we show you what are the areas that had issues, and we show you what we have agreed with Mario and the board, and this was discussed and presented to the board. So we involve the board in it. So the case, this is one of the case studies, is the biomass case study, which is exactly on your point, which is how do we assess a board and what are the steps that we need to take. Now there is a series of steps. You will see, this is one example, but the first step is assess, and you could do it internal or you could do it external. The second step is once you have the assessment, understand where are the key gaps. The third one is how do we address these key gaps that you do. And we'll be happy to facilitate this process. We've done it across different organizations, and we will be happy to do it. So this is, next slide please, Lama. Okay, this is an example of a board calendar. This is Nyaho. It's one of the case studies that we're going to have, probably one of the best companies in terms of accountability and balanced scorecard. And I'll show you how we have been working. When I started with them 10 years ago, I ended up funding them personally. They had no boards. They had no budgeting process. They had no strategic planning process. And now they're probably one of the best run organizations in West Africa. They're based in Ghana on it. So this is, for instance, the different committees. And this is a small organization. It's a $10 million type of organization. I mean, small. Some of you are in excess of this. So they've set here the second meeting. So they have their board meeting, general board meeting. In this case, we have different committees. In your case, you might have only one committee. In this case, they have the Finance, Audit, and Risk Committee. They could put it all in one. They have the Clinical Governance Committee, and they have the Governance, Nomination, and Remuneration Committee. They have strategic planning. The key one, if you have to choose, Finance, Audit, and Risk. Number one, you could group it together or you could separate it together. It's your call to do it. And of course, you have the general board meeting. The agenda is here. We set the dates. We book it in the agenda. It's all done. You need to do this. As a chairman, it's your role to communicate the agenda, not only of the board meeting, but the agenda also of the committee meeting that you have. Next slide, please. Okay, this is also interesting. So this exercise is saying, okay, what are the key decisions? They're either strategy and operations, financials, compensation, of governance. And you will see some of them review the strategic plan once a year, Q1. We want to do the approved annual operating budget and plan once a year. Performance review against JUX every single quarter. Ta'ala. Where are we? What are we stand? Where are we? Are we on track? Are we off track on the KPIs, on the KSIs? We do it every quarter. Review audit committee report twice a year. We don't want to do it every quarter. So we do this. We have internal audit coming in, telling us what are the problems, and then we're helping them address these problems. Approve audited financial statement once a year. Typically, you do it now. Now, April, May is the time where you approve the audited finance. You have to do it once a year. It's one of the roles of the board is to do this. Approve the annual report that you have, review compensation committee reports once a year, review CEO performance once a year, etc. Review board performance and skill set versus current in company once a year. So these are examples on when you do it. So the agenda will not look the same from one quarter to another quarter to another quarter. You put your list. We're going to help you. One more slide, Lama. Okay, this is an example that I've done. I've done with one of the chairmen of the groups. I've changed some of the numbers, but they're not far from reality. So what we've done is we've been very specific in terms of the number of hours we're going to spend on it. So this is why I came about 10 days, 10 to 12 days. So we said, okay, approve the offsite. The offsite is going to take us 2 days. If we want to do an offsite and this offsite to work, you have to do 2 days offsite. Yani mahal بالجبل, بالصحراء, wherever you want, people where creative cells are relegated, and we do this typically in Q3, September timeframe to prepare for next year. We look at strategic investment and capital allocation. We do this, we estimate it for 1 hour. It might be 1 to 2 hours that you have. We do it in April. So we went in and we itemized this. It's up to you to decide whether half an hour, but we do this. We do also when are we going to have it. So this is the exercise that I would expect Nadine to be able to do. I would expect, Yusuf from Majmoa, being it for-profit or non-profit, to have this. Because then you have clarity in terms of what are we going to discuss, when are we going to discuss it, how long it's going to be, what are the deliverables going to be. Okay, these are all templates. As I told you from the beginning, some of these templates will stick, other templates will not stick today. It's fine. If quarter of the templates stick today, this is great, and we're here to help you implement those. Next slide, Lama. Okay, so this is another way of putting it. Policy review cycle, strategy review cycle, operation review cycle, governance cycle, and this is what we review. And for each of those, external market review, how many of you are looking at what's happening to the market? How are the competitors doing? Very few are spending time on looking externally. Recommendation is at least twice a year to do this. To tell you frankly, very few are doing this. Annual financial review, dividend policy, this is done automatically. Strategic investment and capital allocation is done also. Liquidity, a lot of this is the cash flow. Very few review their cash flow forecast, how they are. Annual performance and compensation policy. So this is now, this you could, and you start up, we limit at 3 or 4 of these items. When you're more developed, you go. But this is how it looks like 3 or 5 years down the road. It's up to you to decide. I'm going to pick 3 or 5 of these and decide. Risk management is not done efficiently. External market review is not done efficiently. Liquidity situation is not done efficiently as we should do it. The business reviews, the strategic investment allocation, those are done because this is what they associate boards. But it's not only this. You have other elements that needs to be taken into consideration. Next slide. Yes.
External market.
Yes.
It's difficult.
No, it's not. You think it's difficult. I'll tell you how to do it. We have different ways of doing it. Nadine, how would you do it? How would you know? عيفنا يا كونستانتين عيفنا يعني زاهر طلبوا زاهر كيف عم يعملها سأل زاهر كيف بيعملها طيب نبيل so how do you go about getting a sense of what is happening in the market around you? How would you go? Meeting with whom? So you meet with competitors. So one way of doing it is to meet with suppliers. Now, suppliers are selling you, but they're selling to your competitors. And suppliers have what? Customers. So you have customers who have it. Suppliers have it. Meeting directly with competitors. When do you meet with competitors? We interview. And when we interview, where would you shop? We shop at competition. I use these interview sessions when I was running HP Financial Services. This is how I got most of my information. Is I send out, and these people in the interview process, they open the kimonos. So it is, so you could discuss and you could get a lot of information on it, but you do it in a way that is win-win for both parties. So this is, what are the other things that we do? The other thing that we do, we invite. We invite people who are expert in a certain field. We could invite a key customer. We could invite a key partner. We could invite a player that is not competing with us in our market, but is a potential competitor in Europe or in the US. So these are, and you invite them in the board. And then you ask questions that you have. But make sure that you have the discipline to get an external perspective by having people come in and share with you. Because you need to get out of your internal issues. شو عم بيصير بالسوق؟ You know, what is the major trends coming? How are these trends impacting your business model? These are very important questions that need to be answered. And board is the place where you need to do it. Any other questions? You could have it. You actually could buy. Another way of doing it, you have market report, depending in your industry. I mean, for instance, no, I won't ask you. But there is, راح تعصب معي بعد شوي. It's. Success story. But you want to speak? Tomorrow. She's speaking to, okay. What's your typical board meeting agenda? Okay, next slide, Lama. So we covered a lot of templates. El Teltron, it's going to be, it's a bit of what we call drinking from the water hose. Okay, so this is a typical agenda. So the typical agenda will fit minutes of previous meeting, always. Always we approve them. Matters arising, always. If you don't have matter arising, no accountability. فرفطت العملية. Matter arising, تعالوا لهون. What did you do? Why didn't you do it? Quarterly financial review, you have to. You cannot do without it. Quarterly, we want to know where we stand in terms of our, even if you're non-profit, I want to see what's happening in terms of these grants. I want to see what's happening in terms of the expenses. So these financial reviews, profit, non-profit, you all have balance sheets, all of you have cash flow forecast, all of you have income statement. Cash flow forecasts are part of here. I put it separately, and in some cases, hatta number 2. Because this is... It's up to you. It's up to you. It's up to you. It's up to you. So you could up to you. So for instance, in some cases, good cash flow forecast is the critical one. You put it on it, but we want to be, it's not only reviewing it, it's the accuracy of it. And this is where you have, because this is where most of the problem comes. If you're not on top of this, this is, you know,
Sorry, I understood what you're saying. Matters arising.
Yes.
Understood as matters coming up.
Arising from previous board meetings.
Ah, okay, okay.
By matters arising from your last.
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah. So this is the action plan. اتفقنا at the end, we do the wrap up. These are the actions that we have agreed. These are the owners. This is the timing. What is the status? Where do you see it? Oops, it's here. This we start with this. Okay, so I'm sorry if I'm not. Quarterly update from CEO, CFO, and others. So you would have this. This would be up to you. Then we have specific topics for approval. Each of those you will have topics for budget, hiring, investments. So these are specific. You need approval. So you present your case as the CEO and the CFO. You present your case. It's all of your board pack. Specific topic for discussions. You discuss. We have different options. We don't know. We want to have, and then we have discuss. These are very important. This is, Heidole are important, but these are where a lot of the value comes in. This is where the diversity of the board, the experience of the board, the track record of the board comes in. Meeting assessments. What worked, what didn't work. You know, يعني ما حكيت كثير اليوم. بدنا شو اسمك؟ كارول. بدنا كارول تحكي شوي أكثر. لا مو نعم. No. I'm joking, of course. And then we have the wrap up. So this is one example. Next slide, please, Lama. Okay, this is going to a level of more detail. So some of you, I might lose you. But for each one of those, when you have an agenda item, there is an owner, there is an objective, and we have the template. For each one, we have a template. So depending on what is important to you, what is the topic of importance to you, who owns it, when is it presented, why are we doing it, and what is the template. But now we don't want to recreate the wheel every single time. So you have, it goes from approving a 3-year strategic plan, to a CEO and top team performance goal, to a budget approval, to annual review of external audit report. So each one of them, we have the template that is being present. But you need, so have this list of, it's like your library, and you might decide on this, Nadine will say, Constantin, I'm only interested in 3. No problem. We start with these 3, these are more important. As it develops, there might be some more being added to it. But each one of them have an owner, the owner presented to the board, each one of them is a reason why we're doing it, and there is a template to help prepare for this. Keep this in mind, this is part of your library that you will have. Next slide, please. Okay, roles. The chairperson. The chairperson is here to lead, facilitate board meetings, set the agenda, represent the board to external stakeholders. He's actually nominated by the external stakeholders, one of the questions we said. So this is who fires the chairman? The shareholders fire the chairman in case they're, so what you do in here. The independent directors, fundamental. I play the role of an independent directors on several boards, non-conflicting. You know, so what we have, individuals who have no material relationship with the company or its management, other than their role as directors, they are expected to bring an objective and unbiased perspective to board discussion. So they are. If I don't do this, I'm not doing my role. So we have to, and sometimes we have to call a cat a cat. My role, I put the mirror in front of Mona and say, Mona, look at this. This is what I'm seeing, and make sure that Mona relates to it. And sometimes what we're looking at the mirror is not good. Sometimes there are issues like for instance, we're too much of a family business. We have difficulty in laying off executives that are not performing. Why? Because we treat them like family members. But this is wrong. Because by doing this, what you send the message is that non-performance is acceptable by this organization and by this family. Or we keep a company or an entity that has not been performing for the past 3 or 4 years. Why do we keep it? It could be for good reasons, but we need to know. At sometimes letting go of key executives, letting go of key businesses are tough decisions, you know, and you know, when I don't want to go into specific examples, but when I was in Dubai for one of the groups that I say, but Constantin, we hired you to solve the problem. I said, this company has no solution. My solution to it is you have to let go of this company. But to let go of a company is like letting go. So these are difficult decisions, but the role of independence is to have the courage to come and state what needs to be done in order to avoid to have complacency in terms of the way to be done. It's not an easy role. Executive directors. You will have some executive directors, either as CFO or CEO that are going to be present on it. Quelle heure il est?
5h54.
Ah, okay. So we will have, look, I'm going to stop.
There's a break outside.
Okay, there is a break outside. We're going to have it. We have with us Stéphane Debane, who was the executive chairman of the Debane Sayali Group, who is going to be on the panel. Hadi vient. Hadi rentre. Hadi Farah, who will be joining the panel here. Mixed also with them, we're going to take a break. We're going to have, who else we have this afternoon? Hadi Nassif and Yasser, who should be coming. So we take a 10 minutes break. We go this, and we start directly with the panels. Is the speed okay? Is the information relevant? Kind of, Mina, kind of. Okay, so this is the part where we're going to try to get expertise for people who have done it. Some of them for more than 30, 40 years, have a track record, learn from failures, discovered best practices, and are here to share it. So we're going to ask them questions to start the discussion. The most important thing is for you to be prepared with those questions. So the format we're going to have is for each one to present himself briefly, what they have done, and how important is the governance in their career path that they had so far. And then we'll go on with specific questions that we're going to ask around their experience on it. Now I want to put, because what we have covered as templates, a number of you have said, Constantin, this is great, but I feel it's overwhelming. I told you, even if you use 10% of those templates, it doesn't matter. You don't want to start with a board of advisors. You want to start with a regular monthly meeting to review. This is the way we're doing it with Zena and with the startup that we work with. Then you grow to a scale up. Then you grow to complete companies. As you grow, you will use more of these templates. So don't be overwhelmed. I gave you the full menu. It's up to you and your team and your board to decide which are the ones that are applicable. And if you need help from us, we're here to help you do this. We do it either as part of programs that we have. So these are programs structured over 2 to 3 years that we do. Always do it as part of assignments that we have with each of the companies that we work. Where is Rafael? He was here. You could check? Okay. So so we start the process behind. So this is one. So start simple. Keep it simple. This is first one. The second one is keep it relevant. Whatever is your number one burning issue. Nsit ismek. Sumaya? Sumaya. So Sumaya, for instance, when she raised, her issue is the board is not adding value. Constantin, I need to change my board. How do I do it? What is the process that we do in order to change my board without offending these people that have been with me for a period of time? So keep it simple. Keep it relevant to the challenges that you are facing. This is quite important in terms of feedback. And get help. If you don't know how to do it, it's fine. None of us knew how to do it. We discovered it by doing it. So get help. So these are some of the tips that I want you to keep. Now, I'm delighted to welcome, who am I missing? We're missing. So I'm delighted, I'm going to let each of the guest speakers introduce himself. I had the pleasure with working with a few of them and with one of them, hopefully in the future. Each one of them have quite a track record in terms of governance, in terms of well-operating boards and non-operating boards. So I'm going to ask each one to introduce himself for about a minute or two, and then we'll start the questions. Rafi, tu as la priorité.
As you see, I'm an old man. I left operations 15 years ago at the age of 70, which is already quite late. And before that, I was for 15 years, just to go back, between the age of 18 and the age 15 years more, I was the only one on board. And the difficult moment was when my two brothers came with their diplomas, and the least I wanted to do, and I should do, and I have done, is to bring them to the business. When I was in agronomy, when I was in trade, so they were filling two nice jobs. But after 15 years where you were the only man on board, although, okay, I created everything, but this is not the only reason. I was deciding everything. And when they came, I decided that if they want to succeed, I should give them responsibilities. At the expense of what? Of my responsibilities. And I can tell you, it was a big fight inside me. I wanted it, but it was not easy. Just this is for the record. And I was happy, definitely, because I was not anymore alone, and we made in practice what my father wanted, to be always united. And thanks God, we are united until now and forever, inshallah, because, as you know, unity is strength. Now, with time, because we have 5 brothers and 1 brother-in-law, with time, we had to prepare ourselves for the future. Why? Not only because we were 6, but because we had 18 children. Now we had the choice, like so many families, leave it as it is. We work, we succeed, we make the necessary efforts for the success of the business, and when we leave, our children will manage. And we had the choice, and so many families are making this choice. We decided that we will not do this choice. We will try to take the very difficult road to prepare the 18 sons and daughters to prepare themselves to take our place. And this started, we thought that it was going to be quite easy. 2-3 years, we would organize everything, etc. We asked a very prominent English consultant, and to make a long story short, it took us more than 10 years, more, maybe 15 years since that time, to be ready to be really operational as a true organized company, like you have seen so nicely, so clearly, so cleverly by Constantin the past 2 hours. So we are still trying hard to reach these beautiful objectives. Now, I will tell you later what I think from the other side.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Hadi Nassif. I am currently the CEO for Saint-Gobain, the French manufacturing group in building materials, covering Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East. So that's the whole area from Turkey till Tunisia on the Mediterranean, and the whole Arabic Peninsula and Arabic countries in the Middle East. I had an education of business at AUB at a time where Beirut was divided. So I had to cross the borders. And during that time, I was also a volunteer at the Red Cross. So this, I think, was something very important that changed my life. First of all, having the opportunity to see all aspects and faces of this beautiful country while I was raised in one part and not seeing the other. So AUB in that sense was very important for my vision and for understanding that you cannot do everything on your own. After that, I worked for 3 family businesses. The third one, Telte Septe, was the Bani Sai Ali Group. So, and one of them was managed by a single owner that inherited this from his father. I learned a lot from this gentleman. And then I worked with another Lebanese family, very successful, where there were 2 brothers from the second generation that decided to split. And this by itself was quite a surprise for me, so I decided to leave because I didn't see myself taking sides with any one of them. And this is how I got to join SODAP, which was a JV between the Bani Sai Ali and Lafarge. And I started in a commercial role, and very quickly I took on responsibilities of general management. And then Lafarge decided to leave, and we had to pursue our journey of growth. So we had to become big, otherwise we will be totally taken over by big companies. So, and this is how I had the chance to meet the governance, I would say, of the 6 brothers. I would say brothers because Nadim is a brother to you too. And I came to them with a growth plan which was fully endorsed, although I felt that they did not believe we could make it happen. But we grew this business from a $5 million business to a $100 million business within 7 years. And the Bani Sai Ali family gave me an option to become a shareholder myself in 2005. And I didn't have the means to do so, so I took a loan, bought my share, and then we took that company, which became a leader in the Middle East, and sold it to Saint-Gobain. That was 15 years ago. And I stayed on board with Saint-Gobain, and gradually they handed to the Lebanese team all their businesses in the region, and then expanded the region to cover Egypt and recently Turkey. So today, the same team that continues to be based here in Beirut is managing a €1 billion business very successfully with consistent results. Obviously, going back to governance, I have experienced single owner business, single decision, to a shared decision of 2 brothers that decided to separate, and then a governance system of a family that was taking things seriously and open for new ideas, for new horizons. And now, for the past 15 years, I'm experiencing governance in a multinational, which is much more demanding. When you're in a publicly listed company, you have to respect all aspects of compliance, transparency, reporting, safety, EHS, CSR, audit, you name it. So it's continuous work. And one thing I have learned, because I represent also Saint-Gobain and several partnerships we have in the region, in Saudi, in Turkey, in Egypt, whenever you are dealing with complex situation and cultural differences, it is always important to have some people or a system to which you can refer to for advice, for vision, and mostly for values. Because this is what makes a sustainable business on the long run. Saint-Gobain is a 358 years old company. It has continued to operate despite the wars in Europe, despite all the challenges that have really shaken our world, World War I, World War II, instability, pandemics, sanctions, etc. And there's a reason for that. It's the values and the principles that we have. And I consider myself to be blessed to work with people with very high values. And this made a big difference. And I would recommend to each one in the room also to keep a balance of body can have. In Saint-Gobain, 5 years ago, we decided to ask ourselves a simple question. Why are we in business? What is it that makes us come to work every day, to our plants or customers or specifiers or engineers we talk to? Of course, every business is aiming to make money, but there should be something else. And because the construction world is emitting around 40% of the total global emissions is related to construction activities between cement, transportation, etc. We have taken a commitment to reduce carbon emissions in construction and to be leaders in global lightweight and sustainable construction. And we adopted something we call a purpose, to which our 168,000 employees across 75 countries have contributed, which is making the world a better home. And this is why we wake up every morning and we work hard to achieve, in addition to our business objectives, something good to the planet, to the world, to the future generations. Thank you.
Now, governance is not only for a large diversified group like the Bani Saï or even larger and more diversified like Saint-Gobain. Hadi Farah has his own consulting company based in Paris, but operation also in Beirut, and I'll let him introduce himself and give his perspective on what governance means to him. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for inviting me. Hello, everyone. My name is Hadi Farah. I'm 59 years old. Spent 32 years of these 59 in France and in London, where I started as a trader, then became a consultant, and then founded my own company. I happen to sit in boards of the Franco-Lebanese Chamber of Commerce in France for many years. I'm also a co-board member with Constantin of ABC in Lebanon, and sitting on the board of many NGOs in France and in Lebanon. I would like to say two things maybe about governance and boards. The first one is that a board and the governance is only a piece of the jigsaw. It's not the beginning, it's not the end, it's a path. So there is a time to build it, there's a time to bring it, and then there's a time to develop it. You have, of course, to start with a business that works, that is working, that is prospering, and this is when you come to the governance issues. The second thing I would like to say also is that, especially in Lebanon, a governance is maybe the better ego protection, because in Lebanon, let it be families or people, we all think that we know everything, which is not the case, of course. And having a board and a good governance is the best way to prevent any excess. Excess being in management, excess being in money distribution, excess being in power. And I think it's very healthy to keep in mind that you need to have a board in every company that is working. I'm going to stop here and be ready to answer questions.
To help you, can you give us some of the best practice that this advisor came and helped the family in structuring both the family governance side and the business board governance side? Can you give us some examples of best practices that this advisor has brought to the family? Thank you.
Thank you. Honestly, there is a very important quality to have whenever you want to succeed in a board. Humility. If you have an ego, you are lost and you are making the other losing with you. And you cannot be stubborn. You have basics which will make a board succeeding or failing. And with time, we learned we are a family business, and in order to help us going out from these dangers, we decided, it was a big fight between ourselves as a family, we decided to ask, non-family board members. Non-family board members have been the secret of equilibrium in our board. And I can tell you that these non-family board members have sometimes a very delicate role to play because they have to go against the family, against persons from the family who have ideas and who think that they have the good ideas and they are the family and they are owners of the money. So it's their opinion have to prevail. No. When we had the luck to have non-family board members, they avoided us to go into very difficult and wrong decisions. But this is luck. And I can tell you that the choice of these persons was not easy at all. Because again, some of the family were not convinced about the necessity of that. So the choice of these persons, which should be agreed by everybody, you cannot have a non-family board members coming and 2 of the 6 are not thinking that they are the right persons. So it cannot work. So to find somebody or 3 persons who are in agreement with everybody from the family, it was a big challenge. We made it. We made it, and I can tell you that they avoided us so many mistakes. I stop here if you have questions.
Can you give us 1 or 2 examples? For instance, a board charter or a family, what sort of deliverables did the consultant bring in? If you would like to share with us, so concretely.
This consultant helped us to be honest with ourselves. And it was also sometimes not easy because some of the family members were thinking that they were right and they wanted to impress for the decisions. And this consultant pushed us to be honest with ourselves so as we accept not to be stubborn, not to have egos, and was not easy. And when you put aside egos and stubbornness, you are open-minded. This is the start of real success. And these are, I can maybe say what to do, what not to do in a board. This is something I start by the stubbornness and ego. No way. And what not to do is to stick on your opinion. You cannot stick on your opinion. You have to be open-minded. You have to be ready to convinced and ready to be convinced. This is a very great rule. You have to make effort to try to convince the others, and if you don't succeed, you have to be ready to be convinced. And this is a very important secret in the success of the boards.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to pass to Hadi, and then I'll let our friend Yasser present himself also, because some of the questions you ask are related to him. Hadi, you've been through both family businesses, single, 2 brothers, several brothers on it. A number of those, you have a combination of for-profit and you have non-profit, and you have some that are in a scale-up phase and some are in a more mature phase. What is your opinion on the steps when you start simple? So these are the simple governance foundation that you want to put in place. How do you keep it simple and you keep it relevant to organization in different phases? Thank you.
Thank you, Constantin. I would like to first describe what I think are the basics that are helpful, I would say necessary, in any form of organization. First of all, doing little things, but doing them consistently. For example, if we talk about a business review, if a small company decides to review its performance once every quarter, or every month if it's a demanding multinational, what's important is to make this review really on time and never skip it, and be disciplined. You know, creativity and good ideas are good, but what brings consistent result is really the commitment and the perseverance in keeping discipline in what you do. Now, the dangerous thing about discipline is that you get used to do routine things over time, and you think that those are the things that will make you succeed on the long run. The second thing to look at is to question from those tasks that you do regularly that become your daily discipline, which are the ones that are good to keep, which are the ones that you have to stop, and what are the new things you have to do. If you look at several industries, telecom, for example, imagine that you are a telecom company in the 50s, where you have to subscribe, have maybe the plug. Imagine that telecom companies continue doing business in the same way with all the revolution that happens. And there are many, many, many examples. So this is quite important. And usually people that are in the day-to-day business that have to process orders or deliver material every day, they don't have time to take this step back and to analyze and to look for new ideas. And this is where it is important to have a place and a space and a time where you take a step back and you ask yourself, what can I do better? How can I do better? And who can help me do that? And this is, in every context, important to play. And this is where also having cross-sharing experiences between different organizations can bring a lot of value. So when you are composing governance bodies or boards or whatever, don't look for people that know exactly what you do. It is good to have disruption, to have new ideas, to bring people that come from another industry. Diversity is very important. I have a very positive experience in bringing diverse people. It's gender and other types of diversities, cultural, etc., to governing boards. It always gives a better perspective. So I hope I have answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Talking about diversity, tomorrow you're going to have Yusur and you're going to have Nadine, so it will be a bit more diverse gender-wise than the board, but this will be, so we need to address it because I'm sure one of the questions would come. Yasser Akawi is here, so he just joined us. Now, some of you mentioned ESG. So why is ESG important and what does ESG stand for? The E is for the environment. What is the impact that you're creating? The S is on the social impact that you're creating, job creation, poverty reduction. And more of businesses are not only driven by financial value creation, but are driven by the ESG impact that they're creating. Now, Yasser, I had a chance to work and we collaborate together has been probably has been the one who came up with the concept of ESG, that now is being taken by a number of organizations, both for-profit and non-profit, and he had the chance to conduct more than 150 ESG audits across different companies, for-profit, non-profit, scale-ups, large established organizations. So my question, I'm going to let him introduce himself, but a question to you is on the G aspect, and I'm focusing a bit on the same question. Here, primarily, you have scale-ups. You have companies and then you have NGOs who are in the process of transforming. What will be your tips from a governance perspective on the ESG that they need to do in order to start putting this foundation in place? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Constantin. And I apologize for being late. Got stuck with somewhere in orbit. Let us start by defining ESG, right? Because there is a big misconception about what ESG is all about. It's all about governance, right? So ESG is, we just added the E and the S next to the G, just to give a signal, a clear signal that companies today are responsible for demonstrating that they are managing their financial capital, their environmental capital, and their social capital in a responsible way. So this is what ESG is all about. ESG is not new, it's not different from G. It is the new G, if you want to call it, and most probably expect more letters to be added next to the G, apart from the ES, like the C. Cybersecurity today is becoming more and more important. Yet, like the C, cybersecurity. So more and more letters are going to be added. So let's say ESG, and we introduced this concept in Lebanon back in 2014-15. I cannot tell you how big of a challenge it was, but at least in 2023, we were able to convince very courageous 100 and so companies to embark on their ESG journeys. And everybody was doubting, like, what is this going, you know? But what I can tell you is that the collective value of these companies was $27 billion when they started, when we started the program. This portfolio today is worth $34 billion. So you can tell me, how did you achieve these 23-24% increase in value of these companies? And how did we contribute to improving their posture, their risk posture, to become more attractive to finance or to capital and to markets? Okay, to markets, basically because clients and markets are more attractive to companies that respect the environment, society, and of course that are financially sustainable. And of course, in terms of finance, because, and this is very important, it's not only about respecting the environment and society that increase the value of the company. It's about committing to a governance that is capable to iteratively produce strategies that perpetually decrease impact on environment and society while pursuing financial value. And this is very important to understand it. And this is what strategic governance is all about. We tried, for the last 30-something years, we have been fighting the concept that governance is not about the control of the firm. So everybody, I don't know whether we have lawyers among us, but a lot of lawyers, whenever they introduce corporate governance to their clients, it's about how to control the company and how to make sure that the board of directors takes the least responsibility while they throw all the responsibility on the back of management. You know, how to control information and asymmetry of information across a firm. While governance is really not about that. Governance is about how responsibility is distributed about the firm. It's about the relationship between management and the board, and it's about strategy formulation and strategy implementation. How the management should develop strategies, what are the capabilities that should management have in order to develop these strategies, and what is the role of the board of directors in tweaking these strategies and making sure that they have the skill in order to play their fiduciary duties of oversight, making sure that these strategies are implemented and are achieving the strategic objectives of the firm. And this is being totally lost, you know, simply because there are so many inhibitors that is not allowing good governance to be implemented. And only the strong-hearted are able to do it, simply because we have cultural problems. You know, one, we are getting bad legal advice. You know, second is because cultural issues, you know, within the firm, especially vis-a-vis management, you know, and the role of management, and definitely nobody is getting aligned with the rise of the purpose-led organization, which I'm sure that most of you fall in that category, is companies that have identified a human-centered problem, and they pegged the purpose of their organization to solving this problem. These are the companies of the future, right? And these are the companies that are attractive to investment, but without ESG, they won't be able to give the reassurance and the respect of stakeholders at large. I'll stop here.
Thank you. Thank you. So Hadi has been He's not very vocal, but he has been involved in the different fronts. And actually one of the fronts that is taking, I don't know if he likes me to share it, but he has been pushing and following people who have failed on the governance side in Lebanon at the highest level possible in the organization, together with other people in the, around him in order to hold them accountable. So this is, and it's not an easy one. It's not an easy one because there have been major governance breakages that took place over the past years, and he see it with a group of other people. What can we do in order to hold these people accountable and to show that there is a governance foundation behind it? Now here, they're not politicians. They're not government employees. They're all people who came here because they understand how governance, bad governance affected our country and affected the system that we have in place. But they're all eager to see how to start planting those seeds of governance in this. So what will be the tips of what to do and what not to do if you are starting from ground zero?
Easy question. Huh? I would go back to the basics, okay? You are part of companies or NGOs, and I would say you work on 3 major dimensions. The first one is, of course, to optimize and generate revenues. The second one is to diminish or cut costs. And the third one is to abide by the rules, and governance will come in this aspect, okay? So these are the 3 things, it's very simple, okay? All companies should work on these 3. Yes? Is it okay now? Okay, so when you want to optimize these 3 topics, in order to maximize revenue for shareholders or to maximize impact if you are in an NGO, a board is very interesting because it helps you being at the same time inside and outside to put in place the right rules and to follow them. What is important for a board and the governance? This board is an outside body where you have to manage expectations, duties, and capabilities. Expectations because the question is, why do I need to have a governance or a board? A duty is, what do you expect from those who come? We all said that it's not very easy to bring people outside of companies and coming and having an impact on the company. And the third thing, being within the board, is to how to manage duties. Because if you don't know your duties, you should not take the job. And knowing the duties, also you have to put it in place and, as was said, having the humility to say, I can't do this and I cannot do this. Because when you are in a board and in governance, what is very important is to have the ability to say no. You are not on a board or on governance to be nice. Don't take nice people to work with. Take efficient people to work with. And if you don't have these people to say no, you don't use them. You don't need them. Okay, so a governance, to come back to the question of Constantin, is just to accept having people with a certain knowledge telling you what is done outside, what can be done, what should be done, and what not to do. And you have to, again, prove that you are humble enough to accept it. And there's something which is not very easy when you are on the other side being a board member, is that many times you can be used because you come to a company, you don't know it inside out, especially in Lebanon, where I defy any one of us to go into accounting and understand the books of any company. So it's not very easy to come and ask advice from somebody who doesn't know you very much. This is where diversity comes, and this is where what I would call collective intelligence is important, because being more than one person to think, everybody with his own background, is very positive. Okay? And it's like if you put a network of computers, okay? If you put a network of computers, your speed of calculation increases much. If you put a network of intelligent people, it's the same effect. You can go faster, you can go better, you can go and prevent a lot of errors. Going back again to governance, I don't know if I answered or if it's too long. In governance, there is accountability. And today, without accountability, it's very easy to work. So you should know that even at company level, everyone is accountable. But how do you make people being accountable? It's only by making them know what do you expect from them. So the first step, I would say, in governance is to make it clear and to be clear with everybody you work with. This is what I want from you. This is what I expect from you. Do you agree? Let's work. If you do this, it's easy.
Thank you. Thank you, Hadi. Rafi, you wanted to add something to what Hadi said?
Yes. This not, I not be long. He talked about collective intelligence. I will give a secret of success. Emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is one of the most important keys of success. And one of the other reasons of failure is managing by authority. Managing by authority is catastrophic. Using emotional intelligence is secret of success. Two different ways, one failure and one complete success.
Thank you. Thank you. It's coming back to a common theme that you've heard. Common theme is trying to get your ego out of the equation. It's extremely important, and unfortunately, separating family governance from business governance, taking decisions with family members, taking tough decisions with executives, and trying to do it at the same time in a clear way. So what have you mentioned? What are your roles, responsibilities, and results? Have you delivered, yes or no? If this is not specified, you cannot hold people accountable. So you need to set the base for accountability. And if performance have been missed on several occasions, then what are the steps? And you have to take them. Because if you don't take these steps, you are projecting the image that poor performance is acceptable. And this is quite a bad issue in terms of organization. Now, I know I have a lot of questions to ask. I would encourage you to go and to reach out to them, because all of them are extremely important players in this ecosystem. They've built a big portion of what the good Lebanon is all about, and they're also eager to wanting a number of you to succeed. So I encourage you to reach out, explain who you do, what you, maybe not now, but later on over the next few days, over the next few weeks. Now, what I want to do, given the short time that we have, is I want to give you the opportunity to ask questions. So any questions that you have to the round panel, this is the time to ask. Any questions that you have in mind? Okay.
Hello, Emil Shawi. We also work in a family business. I have two quick questions. The first question is a general question. What's the percentage of independent members that you would say would be suitable in a board? And the other question is, in a family like yours where you had 18 members of the third generation and wanted to integrate everyone, or you give the possibility to everyone to integrate the family business, who would judge, or how do you judge who would be suitable for a certain position? And if there is no space for someone, did you have a plan to be able to help them or to give them an opportunity to build something from their own outside of the company?
Okay, these are three questions. I'm going to separate.
I have very direct, interesting answers.
Answer, very good. But I leave one of the questions would be on the composition. How many typically would you have in independence? And in your case, how do you deal with when you have 18 children to tell them which are the ones that have what is the process that you use in order to onboard them or offboard them? Hadi, you want to start?
Okay, so on board composition, there is no rule. I know of boards that are fully independent to challenge the management, and this would be in organizations that are quite sophisticated with strong government bodies, executive committees, etc. And then the board members come to challenge only and to control. And within the board, there are different subcommittees, like internal audit, risk, compliance, depending on every organization, of course, technology, etc. So you bring people with specific expertise according to the needs. In family businesses, usually families like to keep majority control to decide. So you can see anything going from 25% non-family to 50%, but I have not seen in the Middle East boards that have more than 50% non-family. Maybe it will come one day. Maybe it's a good thing to keep the heritage and the spirit of the company and the family. It's very valuable. And in partnerships, I have also participated in. For example, I take one in Turkey where we run one of the biggest manufacturing facilities for insulation material. We are two partners. One is a multinational, one is a local, non-Turkish, so from the Gulf, so it's quite a nice mix. We have decided to have in the board of 6, an additional 2 independent. That would be local, Turkish, ladies. So, and it was very successful combination.
Thank you. Rafi?
What I'm going to say is going a bit surprising. When we asked our English consultant to help us organizing everything for the family, short term, medium term, and long term, he started by asking one first question: business for the family or family for the business? And we started to look to ourselves, the brothers, say, what he's talking about? He said, simple. Have you created the business to create jobs for your children? We looked to each other and said, no. So you have created the companies to make a living for the families. He said, sure. He said, then from there I can talk, he said, because you are touching something very, very important but so delicate. Because with time, you have 18 children. And I don't think, talk the English consultant, I don't think you have enough space for everybody. And if you want to have children in the business, you know what are you searching for? Non-accountability. Because when you have somebody from the family, you can believe me, and I'm living it for tens of years, accountability is nearly impossible if you want to keep the unity. If you don't want to keep the unity and you want to go for accountability, no problem, then the family will be dissolved. So when you have the family, you have to accept really so delicate things, and ideally, with time, we reach a situation where we are heading with great interest to have non-family CEOs. Because when you have a family CEO, and I remember Constantin said, and historically, you have President, Directeur General. This was the rule. So it was chairman and CEO, and this is catastrophic. And with time, they realized that it cannot work because he cannot be everything. He needs a CEO, should have somebody who is either helping him or making remarks at the proper time. So this is something which is crucial in the life of a business. And with time, when we had a non-family board members, we begged them to be independent, not to be nice with the family. And it was not always easy. Because, you know, when they are there, say, two brothers, one is from an opinion, the other is from, you cannot go with this one against this one, so let us be nice with everybody, and they were catastrophic. So with time, we succeeded to have non-family board member independent to say exactly what is the reality. When it's not going wrong, it's wrong. And we are now heading to the right road. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other question? Mona?
Till now, we have been talking about governance in companies. I know there are many common points between governance in companies and in NGOs, but there are some differences between governance in charitable organizations, non-profit organizations, and governance in companies. The common points we saw, he gave us. Can you give us an example of some differences? First of all, board members on charitable organizations are not paid. So if they come to the board meeting or don't come, you cannot make them accountable. You cannot control their performance. Second, board members on charitable organizations have to believe they are there because they have to give, not to earn money. They are there to make this charitable organization succeed. If they don't believe in your goals, in your whatever function you are trying to do, I think they shouldn't be there on the board. I mean, in choosing them, I will let you give me more information about the difference.
Thank you, Mona. I love Mona. She asks the questions and she gives the answers. I'm going to ask the two gentlemen to come in. Yasser, you know they'll start. Yasser, go ahead.
Well, thank you for the question. I would say the most important thing is not only the pro bono difference, it's a difference of perspective in terms of professional habits. When you work at an NGO, with all due respect to people at work who work, they don't have the same capacities always, or the same knowledge or level of, I would say, of what is asked from them as always. So the first thing I would say again is to express and manage expectations. Well, first, tell them what you need from them. And then if they don't do it, or they stop and they do something else, or you train them to be able to do it. This is the main thing. And then you have, of course, to spend time with them. I mean, the toughest job is to be a board member of an NGO. It's very tough.
And it's very important to clarify that the principle is one. You know, governance is about principles. You know, that's why when we talk about, for example, ESG, we say governance principles and environmental and social standards. So in governance, it's not about standards, it's about principles. So the principle doesn't change. And this is why the fiduciary duties of a board member, regardless of whether it's a for-profit, non-for-profit, NGO, it's the same. So it's the duty of care, duty of preventing harm, duty of loyalty, duty of doing good, etc. What most NGOs fail, and I agree with my colleagues, is that they don't put a very clear charter where they specify the duties and responsibilities, and they remind the board members of their fiduciary duties. The second, there is no board appraisals, you know, so don't appraise the performance of the board members. And third, they don't dedicate, they don't say, okay, if you miss, let's say, if out of the 6 meetings you attend 4, you know, basically your mandate is over, you know, if you do it repetitively. So there should be very clear guidelines from the beginning of what is expected from them and what would happen if they don't commit to their fiduciary duties.
Hassan and then Jackie, you want to add something?
Yes, I would like to add something. The duties are essentially the same, but there's a big difference with non-profit organizations. It's perpetuity. You don't have shareholders, so you want to make sure that there is a succession process. You want to make sure that there is succession process because you don't have shareholders. And that's very important, and quite often you're going to have term limits when it comes to board members. And that's an essential difference.
Thank you, Hassan. Well pointed. Jackie?
Yeah, it's okay.
Short and sweet.
Yes. Actually, thank you all. Very inspiring. My question is regarding the limits or the differences between local and global. I personally sit on 2 global boards and I see certain failures that we think only happen in Lebanon. We heard Constantin on several occasions say, هيدي عنا بلبنان, هيدي عنا بلبنان. My question to you is, how do we compare, not as a government, not as a country, as the companies you come from, as the sector you come from, are we okay in comparison to international standards regarding governance? This is something I would really like to know. I kind of know the answer, but I would like a note of positivity if you allow me. Thank you.
I know I'm going to start first with the gentleman who has both the international and also the local, because he's also present on non-profit organizations and foundation that he's working with well at the same time. So the question is clear, local versus global, where do we stand?
I'll start with a positive note. In terms of quality of people, indeed, I mean, the level of people that we have in governance and boards, in Lebanese boards, are very often even more qualified than what they're doing in the local organizations, NGOs, or even private institutions. They are overqualified. And I have seen many people from Lebanese origins that have excelled in global board or governance roles. What is missing, nevertheless, in the local organizations, and more specifically in NGOs, is that, as Yasser has said, people don't know what they are signing in for. So it's more prestigious. I'm a board member of so-and-so, but they don't know that this also entails responsibility, attendance, seriousness, reporting, accountability, engagement, etc. And I think that we should be more blunt, and people who don't attend should leave. They should leave the place for others. And also, one thing to avoid is that we have this tendency, not only with politicians, but with Lebanese DNA in general. Anyone that has a role, whether board member or mainly as you go up and you become president or prime minister or chief of parliament, people tend to stay there forever. So please keep this in mind. Rotation, ensuring succession is the key to success. And unfortunately, and it's shameful for us, even some people that come to the end of their mandate and they are not renewed in the organization or association, they create another one that ends up competing with the one that brought them up. And this is really a shame. So thank you for giving me the chance to talk about the good things, but everyone in this room should be advocating seriousness of engagement, but also accepting, especially if it's a benevolent role, to step down and leave the place for somebody else.
Thank you.
More or less the same line, but I have to clarify one thing. When the OECD made the first step to compile the principles of corporate governance between 1992 and 1994, it was right after the fall of the Berlin Wall and the rise of globalization. And of course, before or until today, the German governance models are different than the Japanese governance model, different than the French governance model, and the OECD's attempt was to have an even playing field of the understanding of what is corporate governance. So they looked at all the commercial laws, they looked at all the governance models, and they extrapolated the principles of corporate governance, which basically englobe what is perceived as a common principle that we can work on. This is to say that we all started on corporate governance together, on this version of corporate governance. And this also means that we are facing the same challenges. I mean, if we look at the landscape in Lebanon or in any other country, they are more or less similar. At the bottom, you have, not at the bottom basically, you have family-owned enterprises, the same proportion, whether it's in France or in Norway or in Lebanon, it's the same thing. So all family enterprises are facing the same challenges. The landscape changes with the introduction of financial markets and the maturity of financial markets and access to capital. Their governance faces different type of challenge. But in order to migrate or to migrate to that model, it cannot be done by corporates alone. And most of the Lebanese companies, we feel that are doing it alone. And their commitment to best international practices seems as it's a personal incentive or as a personal effort. At least I know from my ESG or from other governance clients that I have been servicing for the last 30 years, that always it's a personal effort, companies that want to elevate to a certain level. While in reality, it's a multi-stakeholder approach. There's a big role for the regulator, the local regulator, the lawmakers, the standard setters, the civil society, and the NGOs. They have all a big role in working together towards migrating from, let's say, today we all talk about circular economies. How do we migrate to a circular economy? Yeah. So there's, let's say, in France, you have the Fit for 55 strategy on a European scale, and everybody is working together towards achieving these goals. Here we are on our own, and most probably the only way to succeed is when we put shoulders together. The private sector, especially the purpose-led private sector, work together towards creating, if you want, a critical mass that could promote Lebanon, out of the isolation where we have got stuck.
Thank you, Yasser. Thank you.
If I may add one thing, the difference between abroad and here is not only human, because humans are very good in Lebanon, and we don't have to be ashamed of what we are. The difference is structure, because we live in a permanent crisis management here, where we face storm after storm, and we have to be ready every day for something that we don't know might happen. How can you work here with IAS 21 with 3 different foreign exchange rates? If you give this to French companies, they won't be able to do it. Okay? How do you work without a banking system? If you are in France, you won't know how to do it. Okay? So the structure is very important, which means that focus on the local, of course, keep the values which are the same and universal, but you have to focus on the local to solve your local problems.
Thank you. Look, I just want all of you to, we're going to stop now, thanking, it was a wonderful session, very interactive. They had all precious times and very loaded agenda. Thank you for making it. It made this a big success. Thank you. Okay, so we will have a similar session tomorrow. So Nadine will be, where is Nadine? She's gone? She's not gone. She's here. Nadine will be here. We're going to have Yusuf Sabra, so it's going to be a different setup. These are more scale-ups tomorrow, but you also have Fadi Dabani, who will be present, who is the executive chairman today of the Dabani Saheli group on it, so this will give you a hint. Next slide, please, Lama. I just want to, okay, the board assessments, where is she? Soraya is still here or she left? She left, so it's okay. You have to leave. Okay, you want to wrap it down now? What time is it?
7:19.
7:19? No, I still want to go. So we've covered this one. Okay, the committees, I won't go through the committees. These are the number of committees that you have. If you want to start with a committee, the one which is the most important is the audit committee. So this is the one that you need to start with, and then you could decide the risk management is normally combined with the audit committee. So you start with this, and then you build on this as your organization starts. Keep it simple, keep it relevant. Next slide, Lama. Okay, so those are the internal controls that we want to put in place, and typically they start, this is what the audit committee will work. It's like making sure that you're aware what are those internal controls that you have in place, what are the policies that you have in place. These are normally documented, and a number of organizations don't have it. This is an important element of governance. Governance is not only about board. Governance is about having clearly documented standard operating procedure. Government is to make sure that you have the systems that automate these internal procedures that you have documented. Governance is about ensuring that the people are trained on these SOPs and on internal policies. And governance is about making sure that you have the audit that tells you where are the red flags that you need to work on. So it's a set of principles. Mannabas board. It's not only about board, it's really having a foundation in terms of standard operating procedure. In case one of you as a CEO is leaving, we want to ensure that there is continuity of the business. And these are some of the elements with clear deliverables for each one of them. Next slide, Lama. I know I'm squeezing you. So this is an example of credit policy, delegation of authorities. I told you it's not only about deciding what is management versus board, but also going to a level of delegation. This is one example on credit. Who has the approval? GM, the central finance manager, the finance director if you have. You could have the CEO, and at one point in time it's the board. So this is a typical example. For one is who decides on the amount of funds that we want to grant to a certain customer that we have. Next slide, Lama. Okay, this is important. This applies to board, but it applies to committees. It's very simple. You state the objective. You state what are, in this case, you have, this is the objective to do it. External auditors, internal audits, this is the different elements that these finance, audit, and risk committee will do. You state the composition. You state the motive of operation. How often do you meet? What are the decision making? What is the meeting frequency, which is similar to the lifespan? And what is the reporting? You normally do this for every committee, but you also do this for the board. The board needs to have, this is a summary, and we'll show you examples on board charters that we have done. One slide, it clarifies it. The more clarity there is, the less confusion, the less overlapping. Next slide. Okay, this is another example of a rolling agenda for the, it's similar to what I've showed you in the past, but this applies to the audit committee. On Friday, we have a full day board with Saeed the Bani Group. On Monday, we have pretty much a full day on the Audit, Finance and Risk Committee. Normally, the committee meets before the board, reports to the board, and states this is where we are. In this case, we made it because of the Orthodox holidays. I'm going to stop here. This is another aspect which is about the risk assessment. So this is the risk management framework, which basically you have to identify, and this is the role of the, not only the executive team, but the board. What are the risk categories that you are facing? Financial, devaluation, political unrest, people leaving the organization, what you have. What are the impact and the probability of these risks happening? So one, you list your risk. Two, you map them. You map them around probability and impact. The more probable and the high impact are the high risk or the red zone. Risk severity, then you decide how you want to deal with it. Some of these risks, we're willing to accept them. Other risks, we delegate to others. Others, we deal with them. So this you have, and this is the decision of the board. What is the risk appetite of the company? What is the risk appetite of the group? And then once you've done this, what is the contingency plan for each of these risk areas? This has to be done at least once a year. No matter whether you're a startup, whether scale up, for-profit or non-profit, this risk assessment needs to take place. We have the format, we have the framework for it, we'll share it with you. Next slide, Lama. We're going to stop here. Okay, so I know we covered a lot of material. Take it as a library. This library, you might access 10, 15% of it today. You will see that in 2 years or 3 years down the road, you might access it in some others. You might have different hats. You know, you might have a hat where you work in the corporate world. You have another hat where you're supporting a non-profit association. You decide whether, depending on the organization, which are the templates that makes more sense. Get help, as I said. Make it relevant to you and to your organization. And this process is a learning process. It took time. The first time I sat down in a board meeting is when I was funded. This was back 40 years ago. A number of you were not even born. And we were funding these organizations, and we were sitting down on these organizations to make sure that our money was well spent. So our concern as HP is to make sure that this money that we're investing in these innovative companies are generating the returns that we wanted. And I learned it. I knew nothing about all this. I knew, and then slowly and surely applying it to other organizations, moving to the Gulf. I worked in the GCC of it, and then realized 10 years ago that what makes sense is for social enterprises and NGOs. This is where we really need to create the impact, because they did not have this discipline, and they did not have this level of accountability, and it's needed badly. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your patience. Tomorrow, it's 4 p.m., same room. I'm sorry for the heat and the air conditioning that came in. It was a lovely discussions, and tomorrow you will see with the speakers that are coming at 6 p.m., it's going to be a great session. Thank you.